Xiang Beifei fell into a deep pit, which seemed to have once been a sewer. The city's drainage system was very comprehensive, and the sewer was quite large, so a person could walk through it without any problem. What on earth is this thing? The more Xiang Beifei walked, the more he felt that something was amiss, the fluctuation below growing stronger. Plop, plop, plop. Because the water pipes had burst, a lot of water was gushing from the ground. Every step he took splashed water, making a loud noise, so Xiang Beifei simply took out his Ronin sword, squatted on it, and then proceeded slowly through the passage on the flying sword. The passages below were crisscrossed, like a labyrinth, growing darker and darker the further one went. Strangely, there seemed to be not even a single rat or cockroach in this place. Normally, sewers are a paradise for rats, and typically, one should expect to be startled by the squeaking and scurrying of rats behind them every few steps. But there was nothing. Rats seemed to have become extinct. Not even bones were left. The farther he walked, the dimmer his vision became. Fortunately, Xiang Beifei's eyesight was quite good, and he could still vaguely see. Meanwhile, the eerie aura was becoming stronger and stronger, likely nearby. Thump, thump, thump. In the passage to the left, there seemed to be something strange moving rapidly. Judging by the footsteps, there appeared to be many things. Xiang Beifei quickly turned around, squatting on his sword to face the other direction. His speed extremely fast, no slower than the shadows in the darkness. The aura seemed to be fleeing the place, and at this moment, Xiang Beifei couldn't be bothered to hide anymore. Since the other party had already discovered him, it was better to confront them directly. Whoosh! Flames lit up on his fist and sped through the air, chasing forward rapidly and soon illuminating the dark passage. Just then, he saw several shadows flash by at a corner. Xiang Beifei immediately turned the corner, and at the turn ahead, he found a collapsed passage. The route was blocked and he had cornered his opponent. With the aid of the fire's glow, he could soon see clearly what was in front of him. Then he suddenly furrowed his brows. It was a one-armed crab. But what was strange was that it emanated an eerie red glow all over its body, especially its eyes, which seemed mutated and were abnormally protruding, with trickles of black blood flowing within, constantly dripping down. This desolate beast was less than a meter long, its aura surging wildly. Yet it exuded a sense of death as if it had entered its twilight years, with little will to live, its life force seemingly leaking away continuously. There are desolate beasts down here too? Xiang Beifei became alert, but he soon noticed this one-armed crab seemed different from the others. Beneath it was a huge white belly ball from which many baby one-armed crabs were crawling out, seemingly devouring the life force from its body, and gradually, they too were becoming stronger. In other dark corners of the sewer, more tiny one-armed crabs were crawling towards it, clinging to the old crab, their origin unknown. Xiang Beifei's spiritual power spread out, enveloping the whole area in its grasp. One-armed crabs are a type of edible desolate beast, which means they are allowed within the borders of Jiuzhou. Perhaps this desolate beast was lucky enough to survive in the kitchen of a restaurant and escaped below, hiding in the sewers ever since. But the question was, why did this one-armed crab look so formidable? Ordinarily, a one-armed crab with at most chi-controlling late-stage cultivation now clearly possessed the strength of meridian opening mid-stage. Even though it was now weak with age, its aura remained profound. However, it did not attack Xiang Beifei, probably because it was too old to move, and it couldn't even lift its massive claw. It didn't take long for Xiang Beifei to detect that within the body of this old, dying one-armed crab, there were two strange types of auras circulating, seemingly interfering with it. This aura clearly did not belong to the one-armed crab desolate beast, and if Xiang Beifei had to describe it, it resembled the aura of other desolate beasts, mixed into the one-armed crab's own. The old one-armed crab's aura became increasingly weak, as if something was drawing upon its power as a source. Its protruding eyes seemed filled with pain, and one of them was already drooping down. Pooh-pooh! The one-armed crab emitted a pained lament, trying to move, but its life seemed to have reached its end. The red light on its body dimmed, and its vitality began to fade, while the baby one-armed crabs nearby started to become restless and scurried everywhere. The tiny hermit crabs seemed to lack combat power, and they had no intention of attacking Xiang Beifei, merely wanting to escape the place. However, the area was sealed by Xiang Beifei's spiritual power. Realizing they couldn't escape, they started piling up together. At that moment, the dying one-armed crab's body surprisingly began showing fissures. But Xiang Beifei quickly realized they weren't fissures. It was a bizarre reconstitution. The old crab's shell split into many small crabs that joined with those already scattered around. As the small crabs clumped together, they reconstituted into a large white crab that seemed to be bursting with new life. Its aura strengthened continuously. In just the blink of an eye, it had already reconstituted by half. The monstrous crab spread its claws, flaunting them threateningly at Xiang Beifei. Its previously drooping eyes now bristled with sinister red light, becoming incredibly aggressive. Kaka! The one-armed crab's mouth snapped open and closed non-stop, its aura becoming even more robust, climbing towards a meridian opening late-stage trend. Was it regenerating and getting stronger? Xiang Beifei's gaze grew even more puzzled. He never knew one-armed crabs had such strange mutative abilities. Shua! The one-armed crab reached out with its claw towards Xiang Beifei. Carried a very powerful aura. As a desolate beast of meridian opening late stage, its attack was incredibly fast. In its eyes, this weak human was no match for it. It needed but a mere thought to tear this human in half. The one-armed crab's eyes gleamed fiercely, and just as its claw was about to seize Xiang Beifei, to assert its dominance, crack! Its massive claw suddenly halted mid-air. Shock flickered in the brutal eyes of the one-armed crab, unable to resist glancing at its own imposing pincer, which could even snip through steel, but now couldn't move forward even an inch. Xiang Beifei extended his finger to knock on the one-armed crab's large pincer, producing a clang-clang sound. Quite sturdy, he praised. The one-armed crab was furious. This ignorant human actually dared to scorn it. It made a puff-puff sound from its mouth, as if filled with resentment, trying to muster all its strength to break through the obstruction and then tear this arrogant human to shreds. The one-armed crab exerted all its power. Puff! It still couldn't move. Stay tuned for updates on Novelbin. Calm. Xiang Beifei had been wary of this one-armed crab all along. How could he simply wait for a desolate beast, with its aura rapidly increasing, to complete reassembling its body before coming after him? Long before it had finished reassembling, Beifei had silently scattered the breath soil, turning it into fine dust, blending into the one-armed crab's body. That meant the one-armed crab's meridians were filled with all sorts of breath soil. Advanced meridian opening stage is indeed impressive. Xiang Beifei shrugged his shoulders and added, "But that's about it." He snapped his fingers lightly. Pop! The massive claw of the one-armed crab suddenly dropped off on its own, falling to the ground. The crucial claw was gone. Clearly, it too was stunned. How could its most powerful weapon just disappear like that? In utter shock, the one-armed crab couldn't help but look at the joint from which it had fallen. The broken joint was covered in grains of sand dust, which acted like saw teeth, cutting it from the inside out. Despite having the strength of the advanced stages of meridian opening and very strong bodily defenses, the problem was, no matter how strong the defense, it was just a tough shell, fragile on the inside. "I feel like you don't quite resemble a one-armed crab," Xiang Beifei mused as he looked at the strange, desolate beast before him. He snapped his fingers again. Pop! 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 All 8 legs of the one-armed crab dropped off on their own, leaving only the round, plump body that looked succulent and juicy. The body of the crab fell to the ground, splashing water everywhere, swaying from side to side as if it were a roly-poly toy. Puff, puff! It spat out a series of white bubbles from its mouth, as if groaning in pain. The detached legs appeared to be driven by some force, splitting into individual smaller crabs, which began to aggregate and climb onto the legless one-armed crab's body, continuing to shape its body. Xiang Beifei didn't bother with it. He just squatted on the Ronin sword, observing these one-armed crabs. After the one-armed crab had finally managed to reassemble its body and felt ready to restore its former glory, preparing to tear the ignorant human before it into 1,000 pieces. Pop! Its large pincer and all 8 legs broke off again. The round crab body once again fell to the ground, swaying once more. You can assemble however you like. If you can pinch me even once, I lose, Xiang Beifei said as he squatted down to observe the large crab on the ground. He controlled the breath soil roaming inside the crab's body and quickly identified something abnormal within it. The large crab wanted to reassemble yet again. But this time, Xiang Beifei waved his hand, and the breath soil inside the crab's body instantly coalesced, peeling open the crab's shell. He rummaged inside for a moment and soon discovered a heart that was still throbbing vigorously. This heart was odd, emitting a bizarre red glow and was as big as 2 fists. He had attended desolate beast dissection classes in his first year of university, and Su Yang had also dissected the heart of a one-armed crab during his course, and it wasn't like this. Instead, it was white with the one-armed crab's beast pill wrapped inside the white heart. Yet, the heart of this particular one-armed crab was clearly mutated. Without any hesitation, Xiang Beifei's palm turned into a blade as he chopped down, excavating the red heart. He looked at the red heart in his hand, which was severely deformed, but just by looking at the heart, he couldn't discern which desolate beast it belonged to, but it was definitely not a hermit crab's heart. The red heart was still throbbing in Xiang Beifei's hand, and he emitted a sharp burst of light from his fingertips, slicing open the heart to reveal its contents. How can this be? He quickly furrowed his brow. Boom! Boom! Powerful bursts of light swept across the street, shattering a building. The one-armed crab's gigantic claw was frantically waving, having already turned the whole street into rubble. In the sky, 8 figures were joining forces to deal with this one-armed crab. All 8 were at the Meridian opening stage, martial artists who had rushed over from nearby to help. The weak point of the one-armed crab is its eyes. Kong Daming stood on a building that had been half destroyed, shouting to the others. Enjoy exclusive content from Novelbin.com. Just moments ago, he had been in the kitchen checking the ingredients when he heard the commotion and ran out, only to find his shop destroyed. Normally, desolate beasts were dealt with quickly, and he didn't mind, but he hadn't expected this slain desolate beast to come back to life. Formerly a pioneer, although retired, Kong Daming, seeing the desolate beast wreak havoc, didn't hesitate and rushed over to help Lu Hong fight the creature. There's something wrong with this one-armed crab. Why does it have the strength of midterm meridian opening? Chun Shuqin said gravely. She had been doing a customer's hair at the hair salon when the desolate beast suddenly appeared, and she too rushed out to fight alongside her husband to protect the area. The other 5 at the meridian opening stage, like Kong Daming, stood up to fight the desolate beast together, all S-class awakeners who happened to be nearby. As martial artists, it was their undeniable duty to resist the desolate beasts. Never mind for now. Let's join forces and kill it first, Lu Hong called out. Actually, there were quite a few S-class system awakeners in this area, at least 40 or 50, but like Lu Jiwei, about a dozen of them were still late-stage chi-controlling students, and among the 20-plus remaining S-class awakeners, only a few had combat capabilities. In a society dominated by literary Dao, each year, half of the S-class awakeners chose literary Dao because it allowed them to achieve fame and live comfortably without resorting to violence. Normally, in this kind of inland city, there's no need for martial power. Desolate beasts are hardly ever encountered, so most S-class literary Daoists are elite professionals in various industries, but they are completely clueless when facing desolate beasts. They have no experience fighting desolate beasts at all. Even if their cultivation had reached the meridian opening stage, they could only run in fright or use their system abilities to evacuate the masses, with very limited actions at their disposal. When a formidable desolate beast caused chaos in the residential areas of the city, the only S-class martial artists who could stand up to it were these 8. However, with the addition of the others, Lu Hong felt much less pressure. You guys distract it. I'll attack, Lu Hong said to the others. This one-armed crab was very strange. With extremely high defensive power, he couldn't kill it alone, so he needed the help of Kong Daming and Chun Shuqin to cover him while he took the lead in attacking. Swish! 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 The white fur on the one-armed crab's sharp legs suddenly fell off, transforming into a sharp spike that shot towards them. One of the Meridian opening martial artists saw the white spikes coming and clasped his hands together, spiritual power surging from his palms, creating a solid steel wall in the air, shielding everyone. Ding! 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 The wall of condensed steel blocked some of the white spikes, but the remaining spikes continued towards the others. Hide behind me! Chun Shuqin jumped up high, standing in the front. She calmly faced the incoming white spikes, her hair suddenly unraveling and each strand bending forward, pointing straight ahead. Hum! Each strand of her hair turned into a black snake. The green eyes of these black snakes met the white spikes, and the spikes struck by the green light from the snake's eyes turned directly into stone. As a pioneer, Chun Shuqin's most powerful ability was Medusa's Gaze. Bang! 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 Two golden scissors appeared in the air, which sharply cut through the petrified white spikes. The one-armed crab looked extremely furious, roaring as a large swath of flames enveloped it, blurring its vision. Lu Hong turned into a streak of light and hammered his fist directly into the eyes of the one-armed crab, smashing its eyes to pieces. Bang! The gigantic one-armed crab fell again, crushing a row of buildings. Thank goodness, even though its defense and strength were stronger, luckily, it was only midterm meridian opening. Kong Daming breathed a sigh of relief. However, no sooner had he spoken than the fallen one-armed crab suddenly started rustling, and many small crabs appeared. These small crabs reassembled and once again formed into a gigantic one-armed crab. Not only that, the aura on the one-armed crab crazily surged, rising to late-stage meridian opening. Everyone's faces changed drastically. How did it become stronger? Chun Shuqin asked in amazement. The difficulty of dealing with the one-armed crab when it was just at midterm meridian opening was already significant, and they had barely managed to kill it through their combined effort, but unexpectedly, after dying, the one-armed crab revived and even advanced to late-stage meridian opening. The surge of energy shocked all 8 martial artists present. Lu Hong was also surprised. Although he was a martial artist, his awakened ability was the S-rank investigation system. He usually dealt with criminals rather than desolate beasts. Now that he finally encountered one, it was under such bizarre circumstances. But not even the couple Kong Daming, who had originally pursued the career of pioneers, could explain this situation. At that moment, the one-armed crab, raising its pincers to the sky, unleashed a ferocious aura and charged at them again. In the sewers, Xiang Beifei was still crouched on the Ronin sword, pondering over the heart. Creak, creak, creak. After the heart was removed, the small crabs that had originally intended to rejoin the big crab's body began to lose their leader and fell apart, buzzing around aimlessly for a while before they lay motionless on the ground, seemingly dead. Xiang Beifei ignored these small crabs and looked doubtfully at the beast pill he had extracted from the heart. To be precise, it wasn't one beast pill, but 2. This one-armed crab had 2 beast pills inside its body? Xiang Beifei had never anticipated such a situation. It is impossible for a normal desolate beast to have 2 beast pills. He did know of a desolate beast called the Twin Tiger Wraith, composed of a tiger and a white ghost. They normally acted independently, each hunting its own prey. They were special because the beast pill could be transferred between the tiger and the wraith. That is to say, if the tiger was mortally wounded, its beast pill would quickly transfer to the wraith and vice versa. But even these dual-natured desolate beasts had only 1 beast pill. So why did the one-armed crab have 2 beast pills? Xiang Beifei carefully identified them, and he quickly recognized one of the white beast pills as a legitimate late-stage chi-controlling pill, which meant it belonged to the one-armed crab. But the other beast pill was at the late stage of meridian opening. What's the deal with this meridian opening stage beast pill? Even Xiang Beifei, who had a solid grasp of desolate beast studies, found this situation beyond his understanding. Wait, if that's the case, this is not good. Something came to Xiang Beifei's mind, and he instantly turned around and sped back the way he had come. The street had turned into a pile of ruins, Unrecognizable from the bustling city area it was just half an hour ago. It looked as though it had been bombed, terribly ravaged. Everyone together. Attack from different directions. Lu Hong, the highest skilled among them, took the lead, attracting the one-armed crab's attention. Rapid flame burst into intense light, his entire being ablaze with spiritual power, as he punched towards the crab's eyes. The one-armed crab shifted its eyes to the side, dodging Lu Hong's fireball. It raised a jade-white leg, its sharp crab leg swiftly stabbing at Lu Hong, who dodged and tried to use it as leverage to leap upwards. However, sharp white bristles suddenly stood up on the crab's leg, like fine needles, piercing through Lu Hong's palm. Hiss! Lu Hong gasped in pain, his form faltering as he uttered a low cry. He hadn't anticipated this development. Just moments ago, his spiritual power had been enough to shield him from the spikes, but the resurrected crab's white spikes had powerfully escalated, and this time he couldn't block them. Whoosh! Seeing that its spikes had penetrated Lu Hong's palm, the one-armed crab swiftly swung its sharp pincers like a giant cutting machine, clamping down towards Lu Hong's body. If he were caught, Lu Hong would surely be bisected. Lu Hong suddenly shouted, flames circling him in a fiery shield, catching the huge pincers temporarily, but they quickly shattered his shield. However, this brief delay allowed Lu Hong a moment to send a punch flying, sweeping his foot from the tough crab leg with a massive surge of spiritual power. Agonizing pain shot from his palm, but Lu Hong couldn't afford to be reckless, narrowly dodging the giant pincer at a precarious moment. He quickly landed on the remains of a shattered building wall, looking down at his foot, wrapped in a strange white mist that was drilling up his body through his chi vessels. Lu Hong's face turned pale. He hastily used his spiritual power to fight the toxin and sealed his wound, but the poison began to spread inside him, causing his spiritual power to become chaotic. The one-armed crab also realized that Lu Hong was the most formidable among these martial artists. Its instinct told it to kill Lu Hong first before dealing with the others. It opened its mouth towards Lu Hong and spat out a puddle of white venom, which made a splashing sound in the air and rapidly scattered down. Boom! Kong Daming immediately jumped forward, stepping on a large cauldron. Samadhi fire swept out from the cauldron, covering the sky with a powerful blaze. The flames spread far and wide like a sea of fire, clashing against the white venom. Assissis! 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 The venom was burnt by Kong Daming's flames, emitting bursts of white steam. Experience new tales on Novelbin. Calm. How are you doing? Kong Daming shouted toward Lu Hong. I won't die. Lu Hong gritted his teeth, forcibly suppressing the pain, and refocused on the one-armed crab. Although he felt somewhat weak, he absolutely could not retreat at such a critical moment. At that moment, the one-armed crab swung its large pincer, scattering the sea of fire created by Kong Daming, and continued smashing down towards them. The two immediately leaped away again. Boom! This time, the one-armed crab directly smashed the building into pieces. The entire building was shattered, countless pieces of furniture, cement, and rebars burst into the air, crashing down and raising large clouds of dust. The whole street rumbled, the noise deafening. Shoo! 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 The one-armed crab, rotating its 8 legs, burst out sharp white spikes once again, stabbing towards these people. Be careful! The martial artist who could control steel was a middle-aged man named Zhang Xiyuan, possessing the Steel Tycoon system. His system tasks were all related to iron, and his abilities were mostly the same. Formerly a pioneer, he explored exotic iron mines in outer regions. Later, he retired and became a merchant dealing in steel, possessing strength at the initial stage of meridian opening. He was just passing by when he encountered this situation and naturally stepped in to help. Zhang Xiyuan, seeing others threatened by the white spikes, quickly conjured another iron wall, hoping to block the white spikes just like he had done before. Due to the enhanced strength of the one-armed crab, the iron he condensed this time was a meter thick. It was also an alloy steel mixed with rare metals, strong enough that even mid-stage meridian opening attacks might not destroy it. However, To his surprise, the penetrative power of the white spikes this time was extremely terrifying. They ignored the wall of iron as if it were nothing, directly piercing through the iron wall, leaving thin, sharp holes as they continued to stab towards them. "Quick, dodge!" Lu Hong yelled. But it was already a step too late. Puff, puff, puff. Zhang Xuan couldn't dodge in time, and several spikes pierced through his chest. His form jerked violently. The white spikes moved so fast that he didn't even feel the impact before they had penetrated his body, causing puffs of blood to burst out. Blood splattered out, and he was quickly soaked in blood, turning into a bloody figure before falling from the sky. The pincers of the one-armed crab then turned towards Zhang Xuan to snip at him. Kong Daming rushed over, throwing his gluttonous cauldron to catch Zhang Xuan, who landed in the cauldron with a dull thud. The cauldron tumbled in the air, radiating intense flames that twisted the air around it, not directly resisting the spikes. But the white spikes turned around and continued towards Kong Daming, still piercing through the gluttonous cauldron. He hurriedly pulled the cauldron back, but midair, the gluttonous cauldron was struck by a crab leg, shattering outright. Zhang Xuan also fell out, landing in a pile of ruins, buried in the dust. However, the white spikes kept stabbing towards Kong Daming. Kong Daming inhaled sharply, the samadhi fire spread again, but this time his flames could not burn away the white toxic spikes. He couldn't dodge in time, and his arm was also pierced by the white spikes. SSS. Kong Daming's face turned pale as he quickly dodged. Despite his chubby appearance, he was actually very agile, rolling down like a fat ball, his speed both rapid and swift. But he hadn't rolled far when the pincer thundered down, emitting a sharp whistling. Kong Daming, maneuvering his body, barely avoided the pincer. Although the pincer didn't hit him directly, he was still swept up by the aftermath and slammed into a building, smashing a huge round hole into it. Shoo! 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 The one-armed crab shook its 8 legs, spurting out dense white spikes again, stabbing towards the broken hole in the building, intending to kill Kong Daming. "You dare to touch my husband, bastard!" Chun Xiuqin stood in front of the broken hole in the building, attempting to use Medusa's petrification again to block those spikes. But she quickly realized that her snake hair was also ineffective, completely unable to petrify the white spikes. However, she quickly changed her approach, turning her snake hair into thin beams of light, deftly wrapping around the white spikes. Precarious. The white spikes were diverted by her powers, not stabbing towards Kong Daming inside the building, but instead piercing down to the floor below. But a sharp crab leg came whistling through the air, scraping across her waist, slashing a severe wound across it. "Wife!" Kong Daming had just crawled out of the broken hole when he saw everything happen, and his eyes immediately reddened in alarm. However, the one-armed crab's pincer hammered down once again, smashing towards them. Kong Daming summoned another gluttonous cauldron, trying to block this strike. However, with a massive boom, the pincer shattered the gluttonous cauldron into pieces, much like shards of porcelain, easily broken, utterly unable to withstand the horrifying impact. The pincer, emitting a violent aura, continued its descent towards Kong Daming. Not good. Kong Daming, seeing his injured wife, gritted his teeth, flipped over in midair, and used his hefty body to protect Chun Xiuqin beneath him. Crack! The enormous pincer slammed onto Kong Daming's back. A sound of breaking bones was heard. His spine was directly smashed. Bang! The couple, Kong Daming, hit the ground, creating a huge pit. In the distance, the remaining Meridian opening stage martial artists, upon seeing this, immediately attacked the one-armed crab from different directions, trying to draw its attention. Lightning, thunder, the booming sounds were deafening. Yet, their attacks had absolutely no effect on the one-armed crab. It turned and roared at them, its spine stabbing towards the others. The color drained from their faces. 2 of them were instantly smashed into the ruins, while the other 2, who had stronger evasive abilities, managed to dodge. However, the one-armed crab spewed out white venom like a shadow, laying them flat as well. The sharp crab legs stomped around, targeting the position of the Kong Daming couple, and stepped down. Watch out! Lu Hong abandoned his attack, turned around, and immediately rushed to save the Kong Daming couple. His speed was swift as he was relatively close, and quickly dragged them out from under the crab's legs. But he himself did not manage to dodge in time, and a sharp crab leg grazed his left arm. The glaring crab leg, like a white blade, severed his left arm. Ugh! Lu Hong's face turned bloodless instantly. Blood was streaming from where his arm had been severed, but he still desperately pulled the Kong Daming couple out from the rubble, and with a bang, the three of them collided with a crushed car, smashing it further. The strength of the one-armed crab was too formidable. The power of the late meridian opening stage was far beyond what they could withstand. Qian Xiuqin, clutching her waist wound, did not have time to tend to her own injuries but anxiously embraced Kong Daming in her arms and bit her lip. Why would you do such a foolish thing? Kong Daming lay on the ground, his lower body completely numb, but still managed to pry his eyes open and chuckled bitterly. I promised to protect you. Fool! Qian Xiuqin struggled to sit up, but she was also severely injured and had no strength to move. The couple's gaze then turned towards the one-armed crab in the sky, silently sighing. I never thought we would survive the wilderness beyond our domain only to die here. The one-armed crab in the sky did not let up, swinging its pincers and bombing down at them again. Despair surged in everyone's hearts. The battle here was too brutal. The fates of the other Meridian opening stage martial artists were unknown. With injuries and disabilities among them, they were now powerless to fight. Even Lu Hong, having lost an arm, was unable to suppress the toxins in his body and could no longer move. Just as the gigantic pincers were about to strike down, the soil under Lu Hong and the Kong Daming couple suddenly began to roll. The soil, as if alive, wrapped around the three and whisked them away. Boom! The one-armed crab's pincers smashed the ground, creating a large pit. Yet Lu Hong and the three were now 100 meters away. Astonished, they looked up and saw Xiang Beifei. Beifei? Lu Hong weakly looked at Xiang Beifei, shocked. He hadn't expected that instead of other martial artist support, it was Xiang Beifei who arrived. Sorry, I'm late, Xiang Beifei frowned. He had initially thought Lu Hong could handle the one-armed crab, so he went to find the source of the one-armed crab. When he discovered the strangeness of the one-armed crab, he sensed something was amiss and immediately returned. He had only been delayed below for about 10 minutes, but in that brief time, Lu Hong and the others had almost died at the hands of the one-armed crab. Thud! 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 The one-armed crab continued to move its 8 legs towards them, each step thundering on the ground, shaking everyone's courage. Beifei, get away. It's too strong. It's in the late meridian opening stage. We can't beat it. Kong Daming, despite being severely injured, urgently cried out. Even though he had heard Shoun mention Xiang Beifei's current strength, it was only at the early meridian opening stage. The 8 of them combined could not overcome it, let alone one person. It can only be countered by a martial artist in the late meridian opening stage. Lu Hong also said anxiously, It's okay. Give me a moment. Xiang Beifei turned and stared intently at the giant crab rushing towards them. Whoosh! His figure turned into a ray of light and vanished from the spot. Xiaofei, don't be rash. Come back quickly. Qian Xiuqin saw Xiang Beifei charging out alone and shouted anxiously. Lu Hong and Kong Daming also grew tense, for this desolate beast was no joke. Kong Daming had never treated Xiang Beifei as an outsider. He was the son of a comrade in arms, someone he was supposed to look after. How could he just watch the young man take such a risk alone? Lu Hong felt the same way. He was still grateful to Xiang Beifei and knew that this kid would be extraordinary in the future. But the desolate beast they were facing now had the strength of the late meridian opening stage. If something happened to the boy, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. Neither the Kong couple nor Lu Hong knew what Xiang Beifei had encountered in the outer domain's desolate wilderness. The Alliance had not made the situation in the Withered Forest public, so no one else was clear about Xiang Beifei's abilities. Xiang Beifei had encountered even more sinister desolate beasts before, let alone this one-armed crab. Whoosh! Without any hesitation, Xiang Beifei rushed forward swiftly and instantly landed in front of the one-armed crab, smashing his fist down on it. The one-armed crab, seeing another human approaching, disdainfully raised its pincer to block Xiang Beifei's punch. Boom! A booming sound erupted. Firelight shot into the air, exploding into terrifying flames. These flames were extremely volatile, igniting upon the one-armed crab's body, quickly spreading along its form, the blaze reaching to the sky, illuminating the entire ruins. The one-armed crab seemed to sense something. It rapidly spat out streaks of white venom, like foam, covering itself and swiftly erasing Xiang Beifei's flames. It retreated warily a couple of steps, its two huge eyes vigilantly watching Xiang Beifei. The flame had made it feel a hint of a threat, but Xiang Beifei's punch hadn't injured the one-armed crab. His fist might as well have hit a mountain. The pincer didn't budge, but Xiang Beifei used the rebounding force to leap upward. The defensive power of the late Meridian opening stage one-armed crab was still terrifying. However, Xiang Beifei was no longer the rookie who had just stepped into the early stages of Meridian opening and had to run from later stage desolate beasts. Months of continuous cultivation and Meridian development gave him a very strong ability to respond. And no matter how powerful this crab's cultivation became, it was still a one-armed crab. Every attack it made continued to retain the habits of the late chi-controlling stage. Its cultivation was forcibly enhanced, but it was still not truly at the late Meridian opening stage. As for how to evade it, how to cope, and how to attack, the learn-by-analogy savvy Xiang Beifei knew it all by heart. Whoosh! 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 Countless white spikes detached from the crab's legs, following Xiang Beifei in an attempt to halt his advance. But he nimbly dodged through the air, ignoring the white spikes. Xiang Beifei didn't attack the one-armed crab's eyes, because he knew that even if his fist landed on the crab's eyes, he still wouldn't be able to kill this desolate beast. The one-armed crab had long since surpassed the mere late chi-controlling stage of a desolate beast. It could still reconstitute itself. To kill it, the method was quite simple. Read exclusive chapters at NovelBin.com. Xiang Beifei landed on the joint of the one-armed crab's large pincer, and subsequently, a flash of light passed. The spirit-gathering book appeared in his hand, and in an instant, the spirit-gathering book automatically flipped to the basket constellation. As the basket constellation was revealed, a misty breath spread out, led by Xiang Beifei, enveloping the breath soil. Return to the original state. This power was incredibly peculiar. Anything it touched was forced to revert to its initial state. Currently, Xiang Beifei was incapable of fully controlling this breath. If he tried to deliberately do so, he would also suffer backlash, and there was the risk of losing control. Thus, he could only let it rest on the breath soil. The breath soil itself was very special. Return to the original state couldn't affect the breath soil, but once the breath soil was tainted with this breath, it became different. At this moment, Xiang Beifei had no need to deliberately control it. He just let the breath of return to the original state spread freely. Whatever it wanted to do, just let it free itself. Buzz! The breath of return to the original state swept along the breath soil, falling upon the one-armed crab's limb. Without Xiang Beifei's control, the breath couldn't return it to a specific state, which meant that Xiang Beifei couldn't determine to what state it would revert. It was all up to the breath itself. But the issue was that the one-armed crab had reconstituted its body just 5 minutes earlier. Reverting to the state before reconstitution was an easy feat. Crack! The joints of the one-armed crab, affected by return to the original state, began showing crack after crack, each resembling the shape of a small crab. It was the state of small crabs not yet fully merged with others. Simultaneously, Xiang Beifei's breath soil dispersed into streams of sand, which in the blink of an eye burrowed into the cracks and disappeared within the one-armed crab's body. The breath soil, carrying the breath of return to the original state, rampaged inside the one-armed crab, which, after being battered for a moment, had its solid body compelled to revert to the small crab's form, with many small crabs peeling off within the body of the one-armed crab. The one-armed crab quickly realized something was wrong with its body and let out an angry roar. its demonic power surging explosively, sending forth tumultuous waves that shattered the breath of return to the original state. Xiang Beifei lacked the strength to control return to the original state, and the one-armed crab was also very strong, so the return to the original state was broken by the one-armed crab, who was at the later stages of meridian opening, in less than 2 seconds. But Xiang Beifei wasn't concerned, for the breath soil had already entered the body of the one-armed crab. For him, that was enough. Whoosh! The one-armed crab, once again enraged, clamped down towards Xiang Beifei's body. This time, Xiang Beifei did not dodge. He simply watched calmly as the unchallenged large pincer moved towards him. Xiaofei dodged quickly. Beifei, be careful. From afar, Lu Hong and Chen Shiqin, as well as her husband Kong Daming, witnessing Xiang Beifei stopping without dodging, also cried out in alarm. They had each fought the one-armed crab just moments before and knew well the might of this desolate beast. Not only was its body impervious to blades and spears, but its large pincers were extremely sharp, able to shatter steel made during the meridian opening phase without effort. With that pincer strike descending, Xiang Beifei's small body was definitely done for. All three of them had their hearts in their throats, sweating nervously. Had they not been completely drained of energy to move, they would have gone to pull Xiang Beifei back long ago. However, just when they were all horrified and worried, they noticed that the pincers in the air actually stopped an inch away from Xiang Beifei's body. It was as if it was suddenly fixed in place, or as if time had come to a halt, and the air instantly became still. Whoosh! Whoosh! The wind blew scraps of paper dancing around the streets, and the dust of the ruins rolled and drifted, showing that this place was still suffering a massive upheaval. How come? It stopped moving, Lu Hong said, surprised. Was it frozen in place? Kong Daming too was stunned. Their hearts were still hanging in their throats because Xiang Beifei was still within the grasp of the one-armed crab's sharp pincers, still threatening Xiang Beifei's life. A slight clamp now would probably spell disaster for Xiang Beifei, but the previously rampaging, massive, desolate beast had suddenly stopped. The three of them couldn't even understand how Xiang Beifei managed to do it. Not just them, but the one-armed crab itself was also shocked. It rolled its massive eyeballs, trying desperately to muster the spiritual power within its body, trying to launch an attack to clamp Xiang Beifei. But it was futile. Xiang Beifei gazed at the one-armed crab indifferently, as though lost in thought. Soon, the one-armed crab seemed to feel threatened, its eyes growing ever more fearful. Crack, 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 crack. Violent explosion sounds erupted from various parts of the one-armed crab's body. Every joint on the one-armed crab's body was as though it had bombs installed that suddenly went off collectively, blasting out clouds of dust. The huge body of the one-armed crab trembled like a sieve, and then, its large claw and 8 legs dropped off from its body in an abrupt fashion. Bang! 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 In the astonished gaze of Lu Hong and wife Kong Daming, the previously unstoppable one-armed crab had its large claw and 8 legs directly dismembered, and the pincers that were about to clamp Xiang Beifei fell from his body, not even touching a corner of Xiang Beifei's clothes. Boom! The body of the one-armed crab landed on the ground like a small mountain, smashing a huge pit into the ground, throwing dust into the air. The whole street vibrated slightly, buzzing with noise. This! Lu Hong and wife Kong Daming were dumbfounded. Dead? The one-armed crab, which had mangled all three of them, was actually finished off by Xiang Beifei just like that? There was a moment when they even thought, was the one-armed crab too weak? How could it be taken down by a young man who had only been in college for a few months? But when they thought about their own injuries and the scene of being chased by the giant crab, it was a genuine desolate beast in the late stage of meridian opening. No joke at all. Or was it that they were too weak themselves? All three were astounded in their hearts. Xiang Beifei was actually able to defeat a late-stage meridian opening desolate beast. Initially, they were worried that Xiang Beifei, who had awakened his system only half a year ago, was being too reckless going out alone, and they thought of telling Xiang Beifei to come back and not overexert himself. But unexpectedly, the one-armed crab, which was rampaging irresistibly, was dismantled by Xiang Beifei in the blink of an eye. It was as if Xiang Beifei, wanting to eat a crab bigger than a house, simply broke it apart. If they could have added a bit more fire, they could have started eating directly. The most terrifying thing was, from the moment Xiang Beifei made his move to the downfall of the one-armed crab, the entire process took less than a minute. Is he still the Xiaofei I know? Kong Daming couldn't help but exclaim. Beifei, he's actually this strong. Lu Hong was equally stunned beyond measure. Last May, that kid was clearly just a teenager in the chi-controlling stage who needed his guidance to learn Rapid Flame. But in just 7 or 8 months without seeing him, he had grown to this terrifying level. He was even more powerful than Lu Hong himself. What kind of genius was this? Where is your heart? Xiang Beifei hovered in midair, muttering to himself as he sized up the one-armed crab. Then he kicked the crab's shell. With a crack, the originally hard shell of the crab was directly kicked open by him, flinging outward, tumbling through the air, and smashed to the side. The scene resembled him forcibly peeling open a giant crab shell, revealing the sticky crab meat. Xiang Beifei waved his hand, and the breath soil quickly moved, rolling out a huge heart from that pile of sticky carcasses. Xiang Beifei's fingers erupted with sharp spiritual power, splitting the heart open. Then he frowned again. For beast pills. The more Xiang Beifei thought about it, the stranger he found it. Among the 4 beast pills, 2 belonged to late-stage chi-controlling one-armed crab beast pills, while the other 2 were late-stage meridian opening, belonging to some unknown desolate beast. At that moment, the pieces of crab flesh on the ground scattered into small crabs. They hopped around as if they had lost their pillar, and soon after, they lost the ability to move, quickly turning into heaps of dead crabs. The desolate beast in the sewer just now had 2 beast pills. This one has 4. How did the one-armed crab come to possess 2 completely different kinds of beast pills? The one-armed crab gave Xiang Beifei the impression that someone had forcibly stuffed a beast pill that didn't belong to it into its body, causing it to mutate. But the other beast pill was obviously much stronger. So far, he had found a total of 6 beast pills, 3 of which belonged to late-stage chi-controlling one-armed crabs, and the other 3 to late-stage meridian opening. If it was just a case of a one-armed crab accidentally swallowing someone else's late-stage meridian opening beast pill, it could still be explained. But with 3 of such beast pills appearing, something was amiss. You must understand that late-stage meridian opening beast pills are extremely precious. Late-stage meridian opening desolate beasts are very powerful and adept at hiding. Even ordinary meridian opening pioneers venturing into the outer wilderness to hunt wouldn't dare say they could easily come by such a kill. And here, 3 late-stage meridian opening beast pills had gathered all at once. It was quite a coup. Coincidence? Or man-made? Xiang Beifei didn't continue to ponder. There was a group of people that needed rescuing right now. Whoosh! He rushed quickly into the ruins, looking for the martial artists who had been knocked down by the one-armed crab, and soon found 5 other people at the meridian opening stage. All 5 were unconscious, severely injured, with broken bones all over, and one had a heart that seemed to have been pierced by a white spike, hanging by a thread. Xiang Beifei hastily used his spiritual power to stabilize their injuries, keeping them hanging onto their last breath, but that was all he could manage. As long as they were still alive, it wouldn't be a big problem. Let's go. Wrapping the 5 people with spiritual power, Xiang Beifei returned to where Lu Hong and the other 2 were. They hadn't come to their senses yet, but Xiang Beifei had already picked them up as well and swiftly flew out of the street. From afar, he could see many medical personnel waiting on the main street a kilometer away. He descended towards them, riding on his sword. Quick! Save them! Xiang Beifei handed over the rescue to these people. The doctors, who had awakened high-level medical systems, had arrived early during the first wave of the attack. When the one-armed crab launched its second attack, they were evacuated outside but had been waiting for the situation to unfold. Seeing the injured being brought out, they rushed to help with the treatment. Kong Daming lay on a stretcher with a broken spine, essentially paralyzed, but fortunately, the medical skills in the System Society were extremely sophisticated, and countless divine doctors with powerful awakenings abounded. As long as one wasn't dead, such an injury could be treated and wouldn't necessarily lead to actual paralysis. Kong Daming was still looking at Xiang Beifei in confusion and fear. Beifei, what exactly are you? How could you? Find more adventures on Novelbin. Com. Lu Hong came to his senses and inquired, "How did you kill it?" Chun Xiuqin's abdominal wound had stopped bleeding. She had many questions, but the other two had beat her to it. All three were experienced martial artists, and Kong Daming and his wife even used to be pioneers. Yet, they combined couldn't defeat the desolate beast that Xiang Beifei had managed to dispatch, which left them utterly astonished. "It had a weakness, and I just happened to know how to deal with it," Xiang Beifei said. "Is the weakness its eyes?" Lu Hong asked. "Close enough. But you didn't seem to injure its eyes?" Kong Daming hesitated. "I just happened to be able to break its shell, so I killed it," Xiang Beifei stated. Kong Daming and Lu Hong exchanged glances, seemingly understanding, and didn't ask any further. However, Xiang Beifei had left all three of them increasingly astonished. In their eyes, today's achievement was all thanks to him. "I always feel like you lads seem capable of anything," Lu Hong said with a bitter smile. "Not always." Xiang Beifei temporarily put aside the matter of the desolate beast's heart, did a quick check of their injuries, and preserved Lu Hong's severed hand with spiritual power, placing it beside Lu Hong, saying, "I'm sorry, I'm not skilled in healing. I hope this injury won't leave you with any sequelae." Xiang Beifei was powerless against these injuries. He was not a specialist medical system type awakener. He only learned basic treatment courses in school for wilderness self-rescue, but those healing abilities were negligible and could not cope with such severe injuries. However, if he were at the stage of late-stage meridian opening now, he would be able to precisely control return to the original state and revert their bodily injuries to before they were hurt. He could still help with the treatment then. So return to the original state can be considered a very special healing ability. You can't heal wounds? There's finally something he can't do. This odd thought suddenly emerged in Lu Hong's mind. Beifei's abilities were simply too astonishing. He had previously helped Lu crack many cases and capture quite a few criminals. His sharp crime-solving ability had misled Lu into thinking that Beifei's awakening was related to detective work. But soon after, it became apparent that Beifei was also a cultivation genius. Even the system believed Beifei was more suited to cultivating rapid flame than he was. Later on, during the Qi controlling stage, he easily defeated the highway killer, who was in the earlier stages of meridian opening. Just a few days ago, he heard his daughter go on and on about how Beifei had been outstanding in the newcomers contest, how he had trampled SSR underfoot. Now he had effortlessly killed a desolate beast with a defense strong enough to match those in the later stages of meridian opening. In Lu Hong's view, this kid Xiang Beifei was simply invincible. Therefore, when Xiang Beifei said, "I can't heal wounds," Lu Hong was actually quite surprised. He actually has something he can't do. It's all right, specialization is key in any profession. You're already amazing. Lu Hong thought that heaven was still fair after all, granting the boy immense combat talent but not healing abilities, which somewhat balanced things in his mind. If Beifei even had the ability to heal injuries, then there would truly be no justice in this world. Yes, it's good enough that we got our lives back. Kong Daming and his wife were also full of sighs. "Dad!" At this moment, Lu Jiwei and Kong Shouwen ran over from a distance, joined by Xiang Qingda. On Kong Daming's instructions, Shouwen had taken Qingda and withdrawn with the crowd when the incident occurred, while Lu Jiwei had been helping law enforcement maintain order outside, unaware of the battle situation. Upon seeing the tragic state of their family, both of their faces turned pale instantly. "Dad, Mom, how could this happen?" Shouwen asked anxiously. "It's okay, just a broken spine. Thankfully, Xiaofei brought us out," Kong Daming said. "Yes, without him, we would probably have been in serious trouble today," Lu Hong reassured. Shouwen looked at Beifei with gratitude and said, "Thank you." Xiang Beifei shook his head slightly. "No need. Dad, your arm, Lu Jiwei said urgently. It can be reattached. The Alliance isn't short of high-level medical system awakeners. How are the others doing? What's the casualty situation? Since this area was under his jurisdiction, Lu Hong's primary concern was the safety of the civilians caught in the incident. They are okay. A few people are quite seriously injured, but thanks to the timely evacuation, their lives were saved, Lu Jiwei said through clenched teeth. It's my fault. I should have followed you to deal with the desolate beast instead of evacuating. You can't say that. As protectors of the city, the safety of the citizens is most important. If you are to walk this path in the future, you must understand that at any time, you need to ensure everyone's safety. As long as you do what's right, there's no should or shouldn't. You took care of rescuing people, I took care of fighting. We were both fulfilling our responsibilities, and when it comes to responsibility, there's no distinction. Lu Hong lectured. Lu Jiwei bowed her head, still feeling very upset. Luckily, we're all alive. Xiang Qingde also looked quite frightened. Indeed, old master, we owe a lot to Xiaofei today. He just fought with the desolate beast and single-handedly defeated it. Kong Daming said. That's true, old master. You've raised a great-grandson. His way of dealing with the desolate beast, he's as outstanding as your son. Lu Hong also admired. Upon hearing this, Xiang Qingde hastily grabbed Beifei and asked, You fought with the desolate beast? Are you hurt? Such experienced people like Lu Hong and Kong Daming were injured like this, and his grandson had only stepped into the meridian opening stage not long ago. Beifei, who was still contemplating the desolate beast's heart, saw his grandfather so worried and casually said, Oh, I'm fine. Grandpa, don't worry. It wasn't that powerful. It didn't hurt me. Lu Hong, Kong Daming, Chun Xiuqin, the expressions on their faces froze. It wasn't that powerful. Not that powerful. Not powerful. The three exchanged glances, considering their own disheveled appearances and the startling injuries of others. Those with severed arms, those paralyzed. Suddenly, they felt choked with words caught in their throats, unable to speak. It was like a direct hit to the heart. This kid, he didn't mean to say it like that, did he? Fortunately, they all knew Beifei and were aware that he was a straightforward person. He had said it only to comfort his grandfather, without any other implications. Otherwise, they might have been choked enough by that statement to spit blood. Both streets were destroyed beyond recognition, and the surrounding houses had all collapsed, resulting in extremely heavy losses. Fearing further riots, the scene was temporarily sealed off by law enforcement, awaiting investigation by people dispatched from the Alliance. No one saw that amidst the ruins, a figure stood next to the remains of a shattered building, looking at the pile of dead crabs in the middle of the street. The figure was very blurry, as if the light around him was distorted, making it impossible to see clearly. With one step, he appeared next to the pile of dead crabs, and then with a wave of his hand, the pile slowly shifted aside. It seemed like he was searching for something, but after a while, apparently not finding it, he retracted his hand. Interesting, he murmured to himself. Then with another step, he appeared on the rooftop of the ruined building, looking at the crowd that was entering a state of alert in the distance. Has it been taken away? He searched through the crowd with his gaze, apparently looking for someone. Where are they? He soon let out a soft huh, as if puzzled by something. Then he chuckled lightly. I bet you're racking your brains and still have no idea how this desolate beast came to be. Right? Don't worry. The real show has just begun. He made a strange cackle, and the light around him seemed to become more severely twisted. Soon, the light contorted his figure more and more, until he disappeared. This strange figure appeared abruptly and vanished just as swiftly, leaving no trace behind. Even before he left, he waved his hand and wiped all the crabs away. All the crabs at the scene turned to ash and disappeared. What this person didn't see, however, was that on the 7th floor of the building next door, in a bedroom where half a wall had been smashed, a young man with hands in his pockets leaned calmly against the wall, pondering something. Quite a powerful fellow, muttered Xiang Beifei thoughtfully. Most criminals return to the scene after their deed, either to retrieve evidence or to mock those they have manipulated, showcasing their exquisite criminal methods as a victor. They dare to do so because they are confident in their abilities, believing their actions are flawless and, with their strong cultivation, they can move unnoticed by law enforcement. But in this world, these guys aren't the only ones who understand the value of revisiting the scene after the fact. Xiang Beifei does too. The beast pill of the one-armed crab contained 2 different beast pills, initially making him think it was the result of Shaoshang's integration system, since Qi controlling and meridian opening late-stage beast pills are equivalent to being fused in the same desolate beast. Xiang Beifei knew Shaoshang's system like the back of his hand. If the other wanted to fuse beast pills, it must involve using the system's ability. However, the key point was that there were no system fluctuations on the beast pill, meaning it wasn't shaped by the power of integration system. Without the aid of a system, being able to fuse 2 different types of desolate beasts was indeed odd. Therefore, he had waited here early on, to see if the person behind the curtain would come to destroy the evidence. Xiang Beifei did not wait in vain. That powerful presence had scanned the area before showing itself, making sure there were no living people around, then made its appearance. Unfortunately for him, his energy did nothing against Xiang Beifei, because Xiaohe was yawning while perched on Xiang Beifei's shoulder. The guy warped by light even walked past Xiang Beifei not far away, but he was too confident in his system's ability to scan. If there was no person, then there was no person. He never expected Xiang Beifei to be leisurely standing behind the wall of a ruin. Unless that person searched every nook and cranny of the ruins in person, the chances of finding Xiang Beifei were 0. But that brings us back to the question. How can this guy be so strong? Xiang Beifei didn't understand. He thought this person would be the SR-level Shaoshang, but he was wrong. Just a glance and he saw the system display of this guy. Host: Qin Hongyi. S-rank martial god system. Domain: an S-rank awakener, and Xiang Beifei couldn't see his system interface. That could only mean one thing: the other's cultivation was at least above the god refining stage. An S-rank awakener with such formidable cultivation? Xiang Beifei pondered slightly. Normally, those at S-rank typically only have the cultivation of meridian opening phase, and they are considered above average. The strongest S-rank awakener he had seen at the school was at the god refining stage. For example, Li Nanxing, the principal of Luhe High School, is now in the early god refining stage, and there are also several S-rank leaders at Liangzhou University who are in the god refining stage. But until now, he had never seen an S-rank awakener beyond the god refining stage. And this guy in front of him, his cultivation turned out to be extraordinarily strong, even stronger than SR-rank awakeners. Now that is strange. Xiang Beifei thought about this person. Not being able to see the opponent's cultivation level, he didn't go out just now because he was sure he wouldn't be able to beat him if they encountered each other. So what is the connection between this person and the desolate beast from earlier? If it's the martial god system that's awakened, then how is it related to the desolate beast? The desolate beast, it's clear, didn't emerge from a system fusion, so what exactly is going on? A desolate beast at the meridian opening late stage had appeared in the urban district. This was a sensational event. Normally, cities attacked by desolate beasts were located near the borders of Jiuzhou, and when a wave of beasts breached the border defenses, the border cities bore the brunt and had a higher probability of being attacked by desolate beasts. But Liangzhou, where Xiang Beifei was located, was considered an inland city, and it was impossible for desolate beasts to cross the border and appear here. In the past 10 years, the vicinity had only experienced 2 recorded large-scale desolate beast attacks. Both incidents were orchestrated by criminals who, to accomplish their system tasks or vent their frustrations, released the desolate beasts they had sealed to cause widespread destruction, intending to drag their enemies down with them. But the most severe destruction in those incidents was merely several buildings knocked down, and the desolate beast released had only late-stage Qi-controlling power. The system awakener who caused trouble was quickly suppressed. Both times, it was a Qi-controlling late-stage awakener who had been driven into a corner, wanting to exact revenge. They created a big scene but without causing much casualty. This time, however, was clearly different because the beast in question possessed late-stage Meridian opening strength. Soon, a large group of reporters gathered nearby, standing by to investigate the matter. To these reporters, fighting wasn't their forte, but their sense of news was first-rate. This incident was enough to monopolize the headlines once again. But the Jojo Alliance acted quickly, sending people to take control of the area. They commenced an investigation into the whole affair, denying access to anyone nearby. Xiang Beifei didn't bother with what happened afterward. He simply took his grandfather and went home. Originally, he thought of giving the Desolate Beast's beast pill to the Alliance for investigation, but after pondering a bit, he decided against it. Compared to the people of the Alliance, Xiang Beifei trusted Elder Luo and Yi Changfeng more. Discover hidden stories at Novelbin.com. He made a phone call to Elder Luo and recounted the incident to them. "Wait for us. We're on our way," Elder Luo said, hanging up the phone. About 10 minutes later, thump, 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 the door was knocked upon. Xiang Beifei opened the door and saw Elder Luo and Yi Changfeng standing outside. "That was fast," Xiang Beifei exclaimed in surprise. It took him an hour to get to the school by car, but from hanging up the phone to the knock, it had only been 10 minutes. Perhaps he could consider asking Elder Luo for a lift back to school next time. Could it not be quick? How come wherever you go, trouble follows? Are you a disaster star? Elder Luo glared as he asked. Xiang Beifei shrugged. Who knows? Maybe good-looking people just naturally attract trouble. Elder Luo. Yi Changfeng. Please come in. I'll pour some water, Xiang Beifei said, stepping aside. As soon as Elder Luo set foot inside Xiang Beifei's home, his brows furrowed and his gaze took on a murderous edge. What's wrong? Xiang Beifei asked. Your home is under surveillance. Didn't you know? Elder Luo's piercing gaze locked onto a camera in the distant ceiling. It was clear that such a camera could not escape his notice. Oh, that... Xiang Beifei nodded slightly. You already knew? Elder Luo asked in surprise. Glancing nonchalantly at the ceiling, Xiang Beifei said, Let them watch. After all, I have no secrets. What do they want to see? How I drink water or pee at home? Elder Luo and Yi Changfeng exchanged glances. Initially, they thought that Xiang Beifei's low cultivation hadn't allowed him to detect it, but they soon realized he had known, but simply couldn't be bothered to mention it. Your heart is really big, Yi Changfeng commented. Xiang Beifei spread his hands. Elder Luo glanced at the camera and then snapped his fingers. A stream of spiritual power enveloped the area, shielding their conversation from being overheard. Actually, there was no need for this since Xiaohe had already taken care of it. However, Xiang Beifei didn't stop him. Elder Luo entered the living room and looked around before asking, Where's your grandfather? He's gone to sleep. Xiang Beifei checked the time. It's already 10 at night. Sorry for disrupting your rest. It's no bother, Yi Changfeng said. Elder Luo comfortably sat down on the sofa. He and Xiang Beifei never stood on ceremony with each other. So, who is spying on you? He asked. Maybe, Xiang Beifei said nonchalantly. You're under surveillance and remain so calm? Yi Changfeng asked, surprised. What else should I do? Should I provocatively gesture at the camera? Xiang Beifei went into the kitchen to pour them 2 glasses of water. He didn't care about the camera at all. Whoever had installed that camera was much stronger than him, and he was powerless to do anything about it. Elder Luo and Yi Changfeng also understood Xiang Beifei's sentiment. So, the person behind the Desolate Beast attack and the one surveilling you, are they part of the same group? Yi Changfeng inquired. Hard to say, Xiang Beifei responded. He couldn't be sure about this point. It felt like a random occurrence that he had just happened to encounter. However, he still took out 2 types of beast pills and placed them on the table. Inside the one-armed crab's heart, there were 2 beast pills, totaling 6. I can confirm that these 3 are from the one-armed crab, but I'm not so sure about the other 3. I've never seen them before, Xiang Beifei explained. Elder Luo and Yi Chongfeng's brows knitted in concern as they looked at the beast pills of the late-stage meridian opening. They each took one and floated it in mid-air, scrutinizing it carefully. After a moment, a look of surprise appeared in their eyes. "Do you recognize it, Elder Luo?" "It's only the aura of the one-armed crab." Elder Luo was flipping the beast pill in his hand. Each beast pill was essentially a desolate beast's essence, formed by devouring spiritual energy inside its body. Therefore, they were a type of spiritual power crystal, but each desolate beast also carried an aura unique to itself. The 3 meridian opening stage beast pills seemed to have been tainted by the one-armed crab, as aside from the one-armed crab's aura, no other auras were present. At that time, I felt 2 different auras, but after I killed the desolate beast, that aura gradually disappeared, Xiang Beifei said. He had sensed something awry and had thus scoured the sewer. From the moribund one-armed crab, he had distinctly sensed 2 different auras. However, after killing the one-armed crab, the aura that didn't belong to the one-armed crab was gradually assimilated by it. "Is that so?" Elder Luo pondered slightly. "Can't you differentiate them through the patterns and sizes of the beast pills?" Xiang Beifei asked. Those who frequently dealt with desolate beasts could recognize the origin of a beast pill through the residual aura. Even if the aura of the beast pill was erased, its size, color, and the patterns left on it could still offer clues. Elder Luo and Yi Chongfeng were both veterans of countless battles in the outer wilderness, and had encountered more desolate beasts than Xiang Beifei ever had. However, Elder Luo and Yi Chongfeng both shook their heads. "All its features have been erased," said Elder Luo, gently caressing the beast pill, frowning slightly. Someone didn't want people to realize what desolate beast this was from. The 3 remained silent, contemplating the matter of the beast pill. A moment later, Xiang Beifei asked, "By the way, do you know if there are S-level awakeners whose cultivation is above the God refining stage?" "An S-level awakener above the God refining stage?" Elder Luo furrowed his brows. "The most powerful S-level awakener I've seen is in the late stages of God refining, and he's an old professor at our school. You probably don't know him. He teaches sophomores," said Yi Chongfeng. Xiang Beifei indeed didn't know him, but he had seen him during his first visit to Liangzhou University at the entrance assessment simulation training ground. At that time, many people were curious about Xiang Beifei, so quite a few professors from Liangzhou University had covertly attended. "So, can an S-level reach beyond the God refining stage like the orifice transforming stage?" Xiang Beifei asked. "In theory, yes," Elder Luo replied. "In theory, even N-levels could reach the orifice transforming stage. But in reality, it was very difficult. S-levels were considered extremely powerful among ordinary citizens, as most S-levels could typically reach the meridian opening stage, a realm countless N and our levels would never achieve in their lifetimes. However, most S-levels also stopped at the later stages of meridian opening. Only a few exceptionally talented individuals entered the God refining stage, but by then they were already quite old, like Principal Li Nanxing. "Why are you suddenly asking about this? Does this matter have something to do with S-level awakeners?" Elder Luo asked. "Just curious, a sudden fanciful thought," Xiang Beifei replied. He no longer dwelled on the question. If such an S-level existed, this person would undoubtedly be a backbone in the Federation. Elder Luo and Yi Chongfeng would certainly know about them. However, since they had never heard of such a person, it was very likely that this individual didn't work for the Federation. "By the way, I remember that every year the Federation registers SR-level awakeners, so should the names of each SR level be retrievable?" Xiang Beifei asked. Finding SR levels is challenging since the Federation protects the identities of high-level system awakeners. Unless you know them personally, it's difficult to find out, especially since some SRs live very long. So there are quite a few of them. Yi Chongfeng hinted with his eyes at the leisurely big shot nearby. Elder Luo squinted at Yi Chongfeng. "Haven't you been whipped by me in a long time?" Yi Chongfeng chuckled dryly. Although each year only about 100 new SR-level awakeners were documented in Juzhou, if counted over a 100-year cycle, Juzhou would have at least tens of thousands, if not more. After all, reaching SR level meant more than just living for a century. In the system world, with advanced medical techniques and the ability to cultivate using spiritual energy, people generally lived long lives. As long as there were no accidents or attacks from desolate beasts, and one could afford treatment from high-level awakener physicians, even N levels could easily live beyond 100 years, let alone SR levels. Thus, from the total population of over 1 billion in the vast land of Juzhou, even though SR-level awakeners constituted only a tiny fraction, when considered individually, the number was considerable. However, come to think of it, Xiang Beifei hadn't even considered Elder Luo's age. He could have calculated it based on system logs, but Elder Luo's logs were too numerous. His leisure system was full of trivial matters. There could be hundreds to thousands of logs generated in a day. Once, when Xiang Beifei was idle, he tried accessing Elder Luo's system logs. After half an hour, he had only managed to go through 2 years' worth of logs. It would take forever to browse through them all, so he gave up. Speaking of which, Elder Luo, how old are you this year? Xiang Beifei curiously asked. What do you think? Elder Luo asked meaningfully. You look about 65 or 66, Xiang Beifei assessed, noticing Elder Luo's wrinkles, white hair, and short white beard. He appeared sprightly and, considering he spent every day on childish trifles like watching ants move, Xiang Beifei felt the old man couldn't be that old. Not a bad guess. Elder Luo seemed pleased. His real age was obviously more than that, but no one dislikes being told they look young. Yi Changfeng touched his forehead. Your insight doesn't seem like it's up to your usual standard. Such a conservative guess. Could it be that he is 70 or 80? Xiang Beifei asked. You are still too young, Yi Changfeng said. But Elder Luo glared at Yi Changfeng and said seriously, I've decided, from now on my age will be the same as what Beifei said. 66. 66. Nice sounding and young. As long as you're happy, sir. Yi Changfeng helplessly touched his forehead. Xiang Beifei didn't probe further, saying, That being said, it seems unlikely to investigate an SR-level awakener. Indeed. Yi Changfeng nodded. Who do you want to investigate? Yi Changfeng turned his head towards the camera, saying, The person who set this up in your house? More or less. The person Xiang Beifei wanted to investigate was actually Xiao Sheng. When the incident occurred in the afternoon, Xiao Sheng was not at the scene, and by the time Xiang Beifei left, he had not seen him either, making him highly suspicious. The moment Xiao Sheng left, the desolate beast attack began, making it difficult for Xiang Beifei not to connect Xiao Sheng with this incident. It's just that there were no system fluctuations on the beast pill, so he couldn't confirm it directly. Too bad there's no name, otherwise maybe I could keep a lookout for you, Yi Changfeng said. Xiang Beifei was about to say the name, but, thinking it over, he decided to give up. Having the ability to see other systems is too unique. Saying the name of an SR level directly was too obvious, not to mention the S-level Qin Hongyi. The most important thing was, considering the Alliance's confidentiality concerning high-level awakeners, Yi Changfeng would probably have a hard time finding anything out. Xiang Beifei decided to investigate on his own. He remembered the Zhuzhou Alliance had a talent records department, and when he had time, he would try to sneak in and investigate the two individuals, S-level Qin Hongyi and SR-level Xiao Sheng. The talent records department definitely had UR-level awakeners who had set up various super-strong defense mechanisms, with all kinds of confidentiality measures in place. Xiang Beifei didn't have UR-level hacking skills, but he had Xiaohe. I saw someone at the scene at the time. Continue your journey at Novelbin. Calm. He didn't mention the name, but Xiang Beifei still tried to describe the scene when that person appeared. Elder Luo and Yi Changfeng listened, their expressions becoming grave. You are too reckless. Dealing with a desolate beast in the late stages of meridian opening is one thing, but why did you go back to the scene? Yi Changfeng said sternly. Based on your description, that person's cultivation level must be at least at the god-refining stage. What if you were discovered? Elder Luo said. I have my limits, Xiang Beifei said. Elder Luo initially wanted to criticize further, but after thinking it over, he gave up. All right, as long as you're cautious. This kid was never easy to manage, knowing what he should and shouldn't do. What do you plan to do about this camera situation? Elder Luo asked. In a few days I will move houses. Living here is meaningless, Xiang Beifei said. Elder Luo looked at Xiang Beifei, then suddenly realized, then you want to see who will come to your house to set up cameras again? A boss is a boss. Even though he seems idle all day, his mind is sharp. Once Xiang Beifei spoke, he could guess the intention. Yes, Xiang Beifei admitted. Do you need me to be your bodyguard? Should I live at your place? Elder Luo asked as he pulled out a handful of sunflower seeds. If they dare to come, hang them up and give them a beating. Yi Changfeng couldn't help but say, if you moved in, would they dare to come? That's also true. Elder Luo nodded slightly. He was a renowned figure in the alliance, and anyone with a bit of awareness knew him and wouldn't dare to act under his watch. No need to trouble yourself. He hasn't attacked us yet, which indicates he has some concerns. I'll investigate it slowly by myself, Xiang Beifei said. Aren't you afraid he will attack you? He should be more afraid of getting caught if he makes a move, Xiang Beifei said. If someone really wanted to attack him, honestly, Su Yang would have caught him right after the awakening system had just been awakened. Elder Luo laughed, nodding, okay, handle it yourself. If it were before, he definitely wouldn't have been at ease letting Xiang Beifei face it alone. But this troublesome kid had even managed to come back from a place like the Withered Woods, so his ability to adapt to situations was strong. There was no need to worry too much. By the way, I almost forgot. This is for you. A light flashed in Elder Luo's hand, and an object appeared in it. A thumb-sized melon seed appeared in Elder Luo's hand, which he then handed to Xiang Beifei. This is... Xiang Beifei examined the large seed. Star Shift melon seeds, they can be used to transfer anything, including any attack from an opponent. The amount of force they can transfer depends on you, but with your current spiritual cultivation, you should be able to transfer the power of a late meridian opening stage. Elder Luo briefly explained the function of the seed to Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei scrutinized Elder Luo's system, and he soon saw an introduction of this seed in the system's marketplace. This seed was an additional reward when Elder Luo counted stars 2 days ago, reaching a total of 50,000 stars in the system task. He really was idle, being able to count up to 50,000 stars. Elder Luo was not very concerned about this task, counting dozens every night when he had the time, and not at all when he was busy, so it didn't matter how many he counted. It took him a whole year to accumulate 50,000 stars. Star Shift Melon Seed can utilize the power of star transformations to forcibly change the position of anything, including attacks, living beings, and buildings. The extent and power of the transfer depend on the leisure value. Elder Luo's leisure system was always quite peculiar. It belonged to a type with no restrictions, and the power of all system items depended entirely on how points were allocated. Perhaps because of this, his system marketplace had fewer useful items than that of ordinary SR-grade awakeners, whose systems contained many powerful items. His marketplace was very scant, having only seeds and small items. The user of the Star Shift Melon Seeds faces no threshold. The power they can exert is merely determined by the user's cultivation, but the deducted points come from Elder Luo's leisure value. In other words, this seed had no specific criteria that only items of a certain realm could use. When Xiang Beifei once took Yu Qixin's Purgatory Armor, that piece of armor was merely a meridian opening mid-stage spiritual power crystal. Even if Xiang Beifei used the Purgatory Armor, at most it could only withstand attacks from the meridian opening mid-stage. However, Elder Luo's Star Shift Melon Seeds could be designated as a spiritual power crystal of any realm. They covered all realms comprehensively, adopting a use-first, ticket-later approach. The power that could be exerted depended entirely on the user's ability, and after the execution, Elder Luo's leisure value would then be deducted. Xiang Beifei roughly estimated that if he used the Star Shift to transfer an attack from the late meridian opening stage, using it once would deduct about 500,000 leisure points from Elder Luo. This seed seems very precious. Xiang Beifei weighed the seed, hesitatingly said, "No worries, it's better than losing your life." Elder Luo waved his hand. Last time during the freshman competition, Xiang Beifei had almost been harmed, and Elder Luo was still a bit frightened. So, he hurriedly finished counting the stars 2 days ago and got the special seed, which he then handed to Xiang Beifei as a protective item. Keeping this young man alive was more important than anything else. What if I use it to transfer a god-refining stage attack? Xiang Beifei asked again. If you have the capability to use it, go ahead. I can always count more stars, Elder Luo said nonchalantly. Xiang Beifei, Elder Luo, thinking that Xiang Beifei, with his current early meridian opening strength, could at most transfer an attack from the late meridian opening stage, had reserved 500,000 leisure points to save Xiang Beifei's life. But in reality, given Xiang Beifei's control over the system, he seemed to be able to utilize the star shift to transfer an attack from the early god refining stage. This also meant that if he ever transferred an attack from the early god refining stage, it would deduct at least 5 million leisure points. 5 million leisure points. Xiang Beifei glanced at Elder Luo's system points, and up to now, Elder Luo's total system value was only 60 million, deducting 5 million all at once. Xiang Beifei felt the need to sympathize with Elder Luo. You see, Elder Luo's strength was linked to his leisure points. He relied on accumulating points to fight, so the more leisure points available, the more points that could be allocated, and the stronger his power. Deducting 5 million would almost be cutting down Elder Luo's total combat power by 5 million. I understand now, thank you, Elder Luo. Xiang Beifei stored the Star Shift Melon Seed away. This Star Shift Melon Seed was like a system credit card Elder Luo gave, which Xiang Beifei could spend as much as he wanted, but Elder Luo would have to pay the eventual bill. If not considered one of their own, who would voluntarily hand over a credit card for others to use? Some things are better left remembered and kept in mind. Read exclusive chapters at novelbin.com. This could be considered a very powerful means of saving one's life. But unless absolutely necessary, he would not use it. A total of 6 beast pills, 3 from the late meridian opening stage and 3 from the post-chi controlling stage, were divided into 3 parts. Elder Luo and Yi Changfeng quickly returned, taking one part of the beast pills with them, needing to investigate the origin of the meridian opening stage beast pills. After all, being professors, they had extensive connections. If they couldn't find anything themselves, they could always commission someone else to look into it. With such an incident occurring, the Zhuzhou Alliance would definitely come looking for Xiang Beifei. Even though Elder Luo's relationship with the Alliance was not the best, he still instructed Xiang Beifei to hand over one of the portions to the Alliance for investigation, to serve as a wake-up call to them. As for the remaining part, Xiang Beifei stored them away, deciding to keep them as a fallback. The next day, Xiang Qingde cooked a meal and took it to the hospital to visit the couple Lu Hong and Kong Daming, and Xiang Beifei accompanied him. Since the area had been cleared, not many people had witnessed the situation. They only knew that these 8 meridian opening stage masters had acted against the rampaging desolate beast and had killed it. Thus all 8 were treated as heroes who had defended the city. They received the highest standard of treatment from the Alliance. It was said that the Alliance had urgently called upon 5 SSR-grade physicians last night to treat these 8 individuals throughout the night. When Xiang Qingde and his grandson arrived, Kong Daming, who had been previously paralyzed, was even able to sit up by himself. Uncle Xiang, how can I accept this? You even brought food specifically for us? Kong Daming said. Yes, there's no need for such trouble, Chen Xiuqin said. You two are great heroes. When something happened, of course I had to come and look after you. Did you really expect Shouwen's clumsy child to cook for you? Xiang Qingde placed the food on the table. At these words from Xiang Qingde, both Kong Daming and Chen Xiuqin felt somewhat embarrassed. Actually, Xiaofei is the real hero who killed the desolate beast. We hardly helped at all, Kong Daming said awkwardly. He had intended to disclose this matter. As a promising young man, Xiang Beifei had killed a desolate beast and minimized the city's losses, deserving commendation. But Xiang Beifei had not let them reveal it. Since the matter had not yet been thoroughly investigated, there was no need to draw too much attention to himself. A hero is a hero, no matter who it is. As long as you took action, you are great heroes. Xiang Qingde was very open-minded. In his eyes, anyone who fought to defend the city deserved respect. By the way, how is your recovery going? Xiang Beifei asked. Stretching his back, Kong Daming smiled and said, "It's nothing serious. An SSR-level physician treated us personally. He is very skilled. Initially, my fractured spine caused paralysis in my lower body, but he cured me in the blink of an eye, and I can even walk now." Kong Xiuwen, however, sighed quietly to the side. "What's wrong?" Xiang Beifei asked. Looking at his father, Kong Xiuwen said with a worried face, "Physical injuries can be healed, but the physician said he was powerless to mend the qi pathways, meaning the qi pathways are cultivated individually, and only the cultivator knows how to open them. If they are severed, it's tantamount to the foundation of cultivation being damaged, preventing any further progress. Even an SSR-level physician can't restore it." Kong Daming simply smiled resignedly, gesturing for his son to stop talking, and said, "It's all right. It's good enough to have my life back. I've come to terms with it. This life is probably all there is going to be for me." Originally, he could have advanced to the mid-stage of meridian opening in another month or two, but now it looked like Kong Daming would likely be stuck at the initial stage of meridian opening for his entire life. Xiang Beifei carefully examined Kong Daming's system. He clearly understood the specific function of the S-level gluttonous feast system, and the system also assessed the current extent of physical damage. Current physical damage, 0. Current qi pathway damage, 46%. Damaged location of the qi pathways, spinal qi pathway. Damage level, severe. Consequences of damage. The spinal qi pathway connects the upper and lower halves of the body, and this damage prevents further development of the lower body's qi pathways. It's quite severe. Xiang Beifei slightly furrowed his brow. If it were any other injury or even toxin contamination, no matter how severe, an SSR-level awakener could have saved him, since SSR physicians are extremely knowledgeable about the human anatomy, to the point where reviving flesh and mending bones is not an exaggeration. However, the issue was that every awakener's system for cultivation differed. Virtually all awakeners rely on their system's assistance to open their qi pathways. The system plans the most reasonable route based on the host's physical condition, such as some opening the qi pathways in their chest first, while others start with their arms. Other systems can't recognize these opening methods and thus can't aid in their recovery. Even high-level systems can only suppress, but without shared system values, they cannot assist in repair. The spinal qi pathway, crucial as it is, was forcefully dispersed by a heavy blow as Kong Daming protected his wife. Chen Xiuqin, in contrast, was not so severely affected. She only suffered severe abdominal injuries without much damage to the foundation. With some rest, she could recover her lost qi pathways. Many martial artists in the meridian opening phase often see their progress halted after injuries, primarily due to qi pathway damage. In the past, Lu Hong was similarly trapped in the initial stage of meridian opening for a dozen years after a youthful injury. However, the system later reorganized his qi pathways, allowing him a slow recovery. Later, based on feedback from Xiang Beifei, the system accelerated, enabling him to advance to the mid-stage of meridian opening. This kind of qi pathway injury, return to the original state, should also work. Xiang Beifei pondered. Recently, he had attempted to channel the return to the original state flow, eliminating his already developed qi pathways. Thus, he believed it should also be capable of restoring them. As Xiang Beifei was considering this, a knocking sound came from outside the hospital room. Everyone turned to look and saw a slim woman in a lady's suit, her long legs particularly striking. Xiang Beifei slightly frowned. It was her again. Host, Mu Yiqing. SSR level, Words and Deeds Global System. Realm, late stage of God refining. Back then, in the desolate wilderness beyond the domains, this woman represented the alliance responsible for investigating the withered forest. She had asked Xiang Beifei a series of special questions. Xiang Beifei was already familiar with this woman. "Excuse me, may I come in?" Mu Yiqing asked politely. "Oh, it's Miss Mu, please come in." Kong Daming, upon seeing Mu Yiqing, nodded. Mu Yiqing walked in and said, "Mr. Kong, Madam Chen. Looking at you both, you seem much better." "Yes, thank you for your concern." Kong Daming and the others had met Mu Yiqing yesterday, and after the incident occurred, as a representative of the Alliance, Mu Yiqing was the first to investigate the matter. Kong Daming was aware that Mu Yiqing was an SSR-level executive of the Alliance, but since she was not directly related to his life nor in a superior-subordinate relationship, he maintained his composure even before an SSR-level executive. I'm here today to find Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei, it's been a while. I've heard about yesterday's events. May I take a bit of your time? Mu Yiqing asked, her face full of smiles as she looked at Xiang Beifei. Everyone also looked at Xiang Beifei, who was the hero from yesterday that had slain the desolate beast. It was entirely reasonable for Mu Yiqing, an investigator sent by the Zhuzhou Alliance, to come looking for Xiang Beifei. After a moment of silence, Xiang Beifei said, "Sure." He followed Mu Yiqing out of the ward, with Mu Yiqing leading the way. She exuded a special aura which, even without displaying her cultivation, made her stand out in the crowd, drawing sideways glances from others. But as an SSR, Mu Yiqing was, of course, used to such attention and didn't mind the gazes of others. The two of them continued until they reached the hospital staircase outside, which led to a small balcony with no one else around. She opened the door, stood aside to let Xiang Beifei through, then closed the door behind them. "I didn't expect us to meet again so soon, Xiang Beifei," Mu Yiqing said with a graceful smile, then added with deeper meaning, "I wonder if it's just a coincidence, but why do I always feel that wherever there is danger, there you are?" Standing in the corridor, Xiang Beifei looked at Mu Yiqing and calmly said, "If wherever there is danger, there are always Alliance members, then I don't think you would be seeing me, would you?" Mu Yiqing. Her awakened ability was related to speech, so when she talked, there was an art to it, not too abrupt yet inescapable for others. Her words sounded like a joke, but also subtly suggested suspicion towards Xiang Beifei's connection with these incidents. But Xiang Beifei didn't hold back, directly confronting her with a fact. Every time there was danger, it was precisely when the Alliance failed to act. An organization like the Alliance, tasked with protecting the safety of the people, should have been the first on the scene to deal with danger, not relying on others to resolve it. But Alliance members always seemed to show up post-danger, slow to act. His words were as sharp as ever. Mu Yiqing was accustomed to Xiang Beifei's manner, having interacted with him in the withered forest before, and had a general understanding of the seemingly honest boy's character. This was a boy who either stayed silent or spoke conclusively to end the conversation. Mu Yiqing knew she couldn't dwell on this topic, otherwise, as a representative of the Alliance, she might get caught in her own trap. "I've noticed that in addition to being reticent, you also prefer to keep a low profile, which is truly rare. I've met many geniuses, most of whom carry an air of arrogance, especially SSR-level awakeners, who love to show off and have others recognize their distinctiveness." Mu Yiqing continued to look at Xiang Beifei and smiled. "But you give off a very different impression. You can suppress SSRs of your age, which shows your talent is comparable to an SSR. I'm quite curious, since you single-handedly killed the mutated one-armed crab and saved so many people. A true hero of the city. This should be your moment to shine. Why choose to remain low-key?" Xiang Beifei looked at Mu Yiqing and said, "I'm also curious. Why do you always like to interrogate victims like you're questioning criminals?" Mu Yiqing's eyes flickered with a strange luster, and after a moment, she smiled. "That's a bit severe, isn't it? They are the city's great heroes. How could I possibly interrogate them? Actually, they are quite willing to assist in my investigation." Xiang Beifei looked at Mu Yiqing's system interface. "You used word spirit on Kong Daming, making him speak the truth. You used word spirit on Chen Xiuqin, making her speak the truth. You used word spirit on Lu Hong, making him speak the truth." At that time, everyone had retreated and no one outside knew that Xiang Beifei had killed the desolate beast. Only Lu Hong and the couple Kong Daming had seen it with their own eyes. But Xiang Beifei had already talked to them and they had agreed not to reveal it. Yet Mu Yiqing still knew about it, and she even knew that it was Xiang Beifei who had killed the desolate beast single-handedly. The reason was crystal clear in the system. Mu Yiqing, unaware that Xiang Beifei knew how she usually elicited information from others, continued to smile gently. Then, can you tell me what happened? The desolate beast appeared. I killed the desolate beast, Xiang Beifei said simply. So where exactly did the desolate beast come from? Mu Yiqing continued to ask. That's a good question. Xiang Beifei nodded slightly. If you find an answer, please let me know. Xiang Beifei requests something of you. Speech value plus 19. So you don't know either? What do you hope I knew? Xiang Beifei countered. Mu Yiqing had prepared a multitude of arguments, anticipating any possible response from Xiang Beifei, so she could follow up and gradually draw out his words. But Xiang Beifei's response left Mu Yiqing unsure of how to proceed. Xiang Beifei poses a question to you. Speech value plus 9. She quickly adjusted and said, It's not that I'm hoping for anything in particular, but when a desolate beast suddenly appears and wreaks havoc in the city, there has to be a source. Then when you find the source, please let me know, Xiang Beifei said. Xiang Beifei has made a request of you. Speech value plus 12. The atmosphere on the balcony was somewhat quiet. Mu Yiqing felt that this topic had been cut off by Xiang Beifei once again. Why was it so difficult to talk to this guy? But after all, she was a veteran in the Alliance, battle-hardened. What kind of storm had she not seen? As an awakener of the SSR-level conversational martial arts, no criminal with little tricks could withstand her eloquence. She spoke with perfect articulation. Her tongue blossomed like a lotus, and she could debate groups of scholars with ease. Her way of eliciting information was first class. Adjusting her emotions once more, Mu Yiqing decided to spar with this guy again. Even a mute could be forced by her to reveal secrets, so could she not handle a boy like this? She softened her tone slightly, summing up her experience in speaking. From the last encounter, this kid was tight-lipped, so she decided to chat about something else first, using the gentlest tone to appear friendly. When he let down his guard, she would strike directly and catch him completely off guard. Mu Yiqing put on a smile again and said, Actually, it's not that I'm targeting you, but with things like this happening, we need to give the public an explanation. I investigated the scene all of last night and found nothing, which gave me quite a headache. Do you have any suggestions? Suggestions? Xiang Beifei thought for a moment and then said seriously, If you have a headache, you could take some headache medicine while you conduct the investigation. Mu Yiqing paused. Headache? Take headache medicine? It seems there's nothing wrong with that. But is that the point? What kind of nonsensical answer is this? She had planned to reason with him and move him by appealing to his emotions, hoping Xiang Beifei would empathize with her situation and say something. But who knew Xiang Beifei would come out with this? Xiang Beifei has given you a suggestion. Speech value plus 14. Well done. System, are you crazy? This counts as a suggestion? Mu Yiqing felt overwhelmed. Haha. Xiang Beifei really loves to joke, doesn't he? Mu Yiqing pulled at her collar slightly, trying to stay calm, and then said, Captain Lu Hong has very powerful fist flames. He's experienced in combat and a skilled enforcement captain. I heard that you learned boxing from him in the past. Is that right? Yes. Xiang Beifei did not deny it, as there was nothing to deny. For someone from the Juzhou Alliance, investigating something about a small district captain within a state was too easy. After all, the enforcement brigades were also under the Alliance's jurisdiction. If she wanted to know something, there was no hiding it from her, so there was no point in denying it. Mu Yiqing's eyes lit up, and she immediately seized on the key point. That means your boxing technique comes from Lu Hong. Then I'm very curious. Why is it that Lu Hong's fist flames couldn't harm the one-armed crab, but you were able to kill it? One has to admit, Mu Yiqing was very sensitive to dialogue. She could always find discrepancies in others' answers and pinpoint the crucial questions. The same technique producing different outcomes. Mu Yiqing only had to ask a couple of questions to almost touch upon Xiang Beifei's secrets. Your next read awaits at Novelbin. Calm. Because when I used the fist flames, my thought process was different, Xiang Beifei said. Oh? How so? Mu Yiqing asked, her gaze sharp. When Uncle Lu burst out flames from his fists, He was thinking about how to burn the one-armed crab to death. And you? Mu Yiqing immediately followed up. I was wondering whether the one-armed crab would taste good braised, Xiang Beifei said with a serious expression. Mu Yiqing. Braised. Braised? To think of how to eat it during a fight? Is he messing with me? Mu Yiqing didn't believe that Xiang Beifei would really be thinking about food during a fight. This was probably just a way to sidestep her questions. So she checked her system interface. Current word spirit detection value. Truth. This guy, was he actually telling the truth? Mu Yiqing was stunned. He was actually thinking about food during the fight. Such an extraordinarily talented awakener thinking about food during a battle? Could this be the brain circuit of a genius? How should I proceed with my questions then? He's telling the truth. My SSR system couldn't possibly be wrong. Continue your adventure at Novelbin. Calm. Last time, when Mu Yiqing was in charge of investigating the Withered Forest incident, she attempted to use her astute speaking skills to coax the secret of Xiang Beifei, an N-level student capable of defeating SSR levels. However, every one of his responses perfectly blocked her questions. And this time, Xiang Beifei's answers were even more irrational, completely throwing off her well-considered train of thought. Why is it so difficult to talk with this guy? Can't you at least follow a normal train of thought when answering, instead of always being a conversation stopper? You'll never find a wife this way. Mu Yiqing felt her patience wearing thin, but still managed to maintain a calm demeanor as she said, Xiang Beifei, why would you be thinking about food during battle? One needs to be well-fed to have the strength to fight. So, food is quite important to Xiang Beifei? Mu Yiqing inquired, her gaze carrying a hint of peculiar curiosity. Food is paramount to the people, Xiang Beifei stated. Current word spirit detection value. Honesty. I see. A strange smile emerged at the corner of Mu Yiqing's mouth. After a moment, she smiled graciously and asked, Xiang Beifei, you're young and talented. You must have many girls secretly admiring you. May I ask a more personal question? You've been asking all along, Xiang Beifei replied. Mu Yiqing was taken aback once more, and for some reason, even someone as composed as her felt slightly embarrassed. But she pretended not to mind that detail. After all, those who are skilled in social interaction have thick skins. How could they blush just from someone else's remarks? She asked in a very natural tone, Does Xiang Beifei have someone in mind? What does that have to do with the case? Xiang Beifei asked. Mu Yiqing adjusted her hair and explained, Oh, it's unrelated to the case. I have a cousin studying at Yongzhou University. She saw Xiang Beifei's performance during the newcomers competition and was extremely impressed. She pestered me to inquire, so here I am, thick-skinnedly assisting her. I wonder what kind of girl Xiang Beifei likes. If it's too intrusive, please forgive me. Xiang Beifei asked with bewilderment. Fabricating a sister? Mu Yiqing. Damn. Can't you be more tactful? Don't you know not to reveal everything? Is this how you communicate with people? Inside, Mu Yiqing felt like a herd of llamas was trampling through her mind. But she maintained her professional smile and said, Really? I do have a cousin who admires you greatly. Then let me see a photo. Xiang Beifei nodded. Mu Yiqing. I was just politely suggesting. Can't you see that? Mu Yiqing was fuming on the inside. I don't have her photo on my phone. I'll ask her to send one, she said. Mu Yiqing took out her phone, opened a messaging app, and right in front of Xiang Beifei, she really did send a message to a girl. The contact's profile picture showed a sweet-looking girl holding a bunch of dandelions, blowing them into the air amidst sunlight. Such an artistic profile picture. Is that really your cousin? Xiang Beifei asked. What? Do you need me to prove our relation with a blood test too? That's not a bad idea, Xiang Beifei commented. Mu Yiqing could barely keep her smile. What's with you? A steel straight man? Talking like this, how have you lived so long without getting beaten up? You must be blessed by heaven. Of course that's my cousin. She'll send the photo soon. How about I also have her send over her Juzhou household registration for you to see? So, can you talk about it first? I want to see if she has a chance, Mu Yiqing said. My standards for a partner are quite high, Xiang Beifei stated. Oh, Mu Yiqing immediately perked up with interest. Is it a system-level requirement? At least S, SR, or even SSR? Or maybe a degree from an elite university? Personality? Body? Looks? Mu Yiqing looked forward eagerly at Xiang Beifei. She had dealt with so many people. Despite her seemingly casual and natural way of speaking, her questions appearing inconsequential, she could infer a person's habits and character with the system's assistance, and thus fully uncover someone's secrets. The system would make a judgment on whether the other party was lying or telling the truth. The SSR-level judgment was flawless, allowing her to make clear analyses through a combination of lies and truths. For the less vigilant, she could even coax out their system abilities without them realizing it. In the Withered Forest incident, with her clever use of words, she extracted the system types of SSR students from other elite colleges. The color system of He Qiutong, the time shadows of Chen Baiwen, were all deduced from mere hints given away by them. But she could never coax the secret out of Xiang Beifei. How high? Mu Yiqing sounded calm, but she was inwardly eager. Xiang Beifei considered earnestly for a moment, then replied, Gender, female. BMI index below 23. System-corrected eyesight above 5.0. Non-colorblind or weak. Lung capacity over 20,000. System-adjusted heart rate can be tuned to below 60 beats per minute. Blood pressure below 139/90. Without using spiritual power and system, a 3,000-meter run time below 3 minutes. Standing long jump over 3 meters. Climbing 30 flights of stairs in less than 5 minutes. No bad hereditary diseases, no dental cavities, no familial infectious diseases. Mu Yiqing, what kind of bizarre standard for choosing a spouse is this? You're joking with me, aren't you? Current word spirit detection value. Truth. Oh my God. It's actually the truth. Mu Yiqing was somewhat flustered for a moment. In Mu Yiqing's understanding, the normal standards for choosing a spouse in this world should be personality, hobbies, height, weight, educational background, income, and most importantly, the system rank matching one's social status. Even if Xiang Beifei said his minimum standard for a spouse was SSR level, Mu Yiqing wouldn't be surprised. After all, it was nothing extraordinary for a genius like him to choose an SSR level awakener as a wife. But his sudden nonsensical criteria threw Mu Yiqing for a loop. Is this how you pick a wife? No hereditary diseases, no infectious diseases is one thing, but lung capacity. What the hell is that? Who the heck selects a wife based on lung capacity? And what's with this bizarre test of running up 20 floors? After a while, Mu Yiqing regained her composure, looking at Xiang Beifei with a slightly resentful gaze. She has always been sharp-tongued, capable of talking others into submission with her words. As an SSR, she has never been outdone in a verbal exchange. But for some reason, every time she interacts with Xiang Beifei and speaks with him, she feels like she's on the losing end. Mu Yiqing realized that she needed to calm down. Continuing the conversation with Xiang Beifei might just cause her to start doubting her own eloquence, which she prided herself on. I understand. I will relay Xiang Beifei's criteria for choosing a spouse to my cousin. Now I won't disturb you any longer, Xiang Beifei. Thank you for taking the time to assist me with the investigation. If you encounter any problems in the future, you can also come to me for help. Shall we exchange contact information? Okay. So does Xiang Beifei prefer to use Weixin, or to exchange phone numbers? I prefer to exchange phone numbers, said Xiang Beifei. Current word spirit detection value. Lie. Xiang Beifei lied to you. Speech value +6. Heh. I've finally caught you lying. Mu Yiqing hummed softly. So you still prefer to use Weixin, huh? Is it really that important for you to prevent me from seeing your WeChat moments? Interesting. Next time, I'll have to secretly find someone to check out what's on your WeChat moments. Xiang Beifei gave his phone number to Mu Yiqing. Mu Yiqing collected her thoughts, which had been scattered by Xiang Beifei, and then gave her number to him. Just as she was about to leave, Xiang Beifei finally said, "This is the beast pill from the body of the desolate beast. If the Alliance really wants to investigate this matter, Perhaps they can study it. With a flick, he threw 2 beast pills towards Mu Yiqing. Mu Yiqing caught the 2 beast pills with her hand, then frowned slightly. "Why does the one-armed crab have 2 beast pills?" she asked. "That's a question the people of the Alliance should be telling me," Xiang Beifei responded. "After all, the Alliance manages the entire Juzhou, and regardless of how flawed some people in the Alliance are, overall, the Alliance also needs to properly investigate this matter and give an explanation to those injured civilians." "What else do you know?" "What I should know, you already know." Xiang Beifei simply finished speaking, not bothering with Mu Yiqing any further. He turned and left the balcony, heading back to the corridor. He still had to visit Lu Hong. "Xiang Beifei told you the truth. Speech value +10. Mu Yiqing stared at the 2 beast pills, lost in thought. After a long while, she put away the beast pills. Clearly, just investigating by herself wasn't enough to identify these 2 beast pills. Although she was SSR, she wasn't an expert in this area. A true analysis would still require sending them back for a specialist to examine. Mu Yiqing was more interested in Xiang Beifei than the beast pills. Mu Yiqing looked at her system log. Just now, when Xiang Beifei mentioned that the thought in his mind when he was killing the one-armed crab was how to cook it in a spicy sauce, Mu Yiqing immediately grasped the key point. Although it was strange, any strangeness in this world could be explained by the system. Combining what he said before, it's easy to determine this guy's abilities. As an SSR, she has used her verbal skills to pry out too many people's system abilities, having seen a wide array of them. Many powerful SSR-level system awakeners generally suppress their opponents with a specific feature. For example, she herself can suppress her opponents based on the different types of intentions behind their words. So far, the speech value she has accrued from all the words exchanged with Xiang Beifei is a total of 635 points, which means if she were to confront Xiang Beifei, she would have an absolute suppression effect of 635 points on him. And like He Qiutong, whose ability depends on the number of colors on an opponent's body, the more colors the opponent has, the stronger the suppression by her. As for why Xiang Beifei's punches were so powerful, Mu Yiqing could infer the reason. The likely mode of operation of Xiang Beifei's system was as follows. When he faced a desolate beast, he thought about how to eat the beast, deciding which part of the beast to start with. As long as this idea was specific enough, then when he struck with his fist, the flame would suppress that particular part of the beast, turning it into a weak spot. This explained why, even though both had the ability of fist flame, Lu Hong, the owner of that ability, couldn't harm the desolate beast, whereas Xiang Beifei could kill the one-armed crab with the fist flame. Because the way the systems worked for Xiang Beifei and Lu Hong was different. So it turns out his awakened system must be a thought-type system. A sharp light flashed in Mu Yiqing's eyes. Yes, that was Xiang Beifei's secret. Mu Yiqing was well aware that Xiang Beifei could not possibly deceive her system's judgment, even if he were an SSR. She could discern whether the other party was telling the truth, and her system had just detected that this guy had lied. So, from her years of experience, her speculation about Xiang Beifei's system was almost spot on. Using thoughts to suppress the opponent, the clearer she understood the consequences of each punch she threw, the more powerful the punch became. From the way the system operated, it was definitely the case. So he is a thought-type system awakener. No wonder his speech is odd and his thought process is always different from that of ordinary people. Having realized this, Mu Yiqing quickly let it go. Enjoy more content from Novelbin.com. She had found the reason why Xiang Beifei had always been provoking her. This guy, being a thought-type system awakener, must have a lot of thoughts in his mind, which could explain why his words were almost infuriating. Having guessed Xiang Beifei's system type, Mu Yiqing seemed much more relaxed. Speaking of which, thought-type system awakeners are really rare. I just wonder what he was thinking when he was fighting with Ho Qingguo and Chen Baiwen. Mu Yiqing pondered. Was he imagining the scene of them getting beaten up with each punch? A moment later, she unconsciously thought of Xiang Beifei's standards for choosing a mate. If his system's judgment of his mate selection criteria was true, then why did he choose such standards for his other half? Was he looking for a girl who could be a pioneer as a wife? Good grief. Mu Yiqing furrowed her brows deeply, and after a while, she asked, "System, What are my BMI, vision, heart rate, vital capacity, and blood pressure values again? BMI 21. Vision 5.1. Heart rate 87. Adjustable range 0 to 555. Vital capacity 16,800. Blood pressure 125/87. Is the vital capacity not up to standard? Mu Yiqing took a deep breath and tried to hold her breath for a while. 10 minutes later, she turned red-faced, and the vital capacity showed only 16,000. Martial artists generally have a high vital capacity because lacking it can lead to disaster when walking in exotic, desolate environments outside the domain. Before the pioneers truly start acting, they need to undergo related tests every year, such as heart rate and blood pressure, where each pioneer must have a certain ability to adjust. Many desolate beasts have very sharp hearing. They can ascertain their target by listening to the rate of heartbeat. The specific human heart rate is generally 60 to 100. Some desolate beasts can determine people by listening to their heartbeats, thus deciding whether to attack or retreat. Therefore, it's crucial for pioneers to learn to adjust their heart rate for proper camouflage. During college simulation courses on exotic, desolate environments, teachers taught students whose systems could not adjust their heart rate to cultivate special techniques to achieve this ability. But she remembered that when the Alliance was recruiting pioneers, the vital capacity standard test was only 15,000. So why on earth did this guy need such a high vital capacity in a mate? How long would it take for me to run 3 kilometers, do a standing long jump, and climb 30 floors of stairs? Mu Yiqing asked again. These odd requirements she had never tried before, nor did she understand why Xiang Beifei set them. But since the system judged that Xiang Beifei was telling the truth, she had to investigate to see why his mate selection criteria were as such. She was determined to uncover Xiang Beifei's secrets. Without using the system and spiritual power, the system cannot judge. The host needs to record on their own. Would you like to search for the location of a nearby 30-story building for testing? Heh! Think you can trick me into climbing stairs without using spiritual power and the system? Am I that bored? The system estimates that the host might not meet Xiang Beifei's mate selection criteria based on her physical condition. I don't care. Mu Yiqing squinted her eyes, huffed lightly, and leaned on the balcony, looking out at the distant scenery. After a minute of silence, search for the location of a nearby 30-story building. Mu Yiqing said reluctantly. After a moment, she added, Don't get me wrong. I'm just investigating Xiang Beifei's situation, trying to fully understand Xiang Beifei's background and his secrets. Nothing more. She really didn't believe it. After all, she was an SSR, a powerful pioneer, a strong woman in the Alliance. How could she not meet these ridiculous requirements he set? Host, there's no need to explain. Nobody cares what you say. The system helpfully prompted. Xiang Beifei's mate selection standards were nonsensical. Regardless of what he said, Mu Yiqing's system took it seriously, so he let her investigate. Of course, to avoid arousing Mu Yiqing's suspicion, he even had Xiaohe change the display of the Words and Deeds global system to lies. If it continuously displayed truth, people might suspect the system was malfunctioning. But incorporating lies actually made it more persuasive. Since the system could differentiate truth from lies, and Mu Yiqing profoundly trusted her own SSR system, any display from the system could guide Mu Yiqing. Xiang Beifei no longer concerned himself with Mu Yiqing's affairs, and went to visit Lu Hong. Lu Hong's arm had been broken but had been reattached. However, the meridians that had been opened in his arm were also damaged. Although not as severely as Kong Daming's, it would still take a long time for him to recover. When martial artists get injured, their bodies might heal easily, but the foundation of their cultivation is not so simple to repair. Every injury causes their strength to regress significantly. After returning from the hospital to his home, Xiang Qingde finally had some free time. The restaurant was destroyed, and that area was still under lockdown, so he had no choice but to stay idle at home. Xiang Beifei, on the other hand, went back to his bedroom to continue his cultivation. Over the next 2 days, Xiang Beifei reopened the meridians that had been destroyed by the return to the original state, while repairing the pioneering stone, and then continued to open the meridians in his spine. By this point, the meridians he had opened extended to both his hands and feet. There were only a few vertebrae left in his spine to open, leaving only the body's meridians not fully opened. The spinal meridians are critical as they support the entire body. No matter from which part of the body one starts to open meridians, they need to extend towards the spine. When all the spinal meridians are fully opened, it signifies that one has entered the mid-phase of meridian opening. Kong Daming was almost at this stage, but because of the one-armed crab, his meridians were interrupted and became chaotic. Trying to reopen them was akin to starting over. The spine contains various densely packed blood vessels and nerves, controlling the whole body. Extensive damage to the spine generally results in paralysis. It is crucial for normal people. The same applies to cultivators in the meridian opening phase. To carve a new meridian outside these nerves and blood vessels for conducting spiritual power is a meticulous task that requires extreme care and cannot be achieved overnight. This is why many martial artists spend only 3 to 4 years advancing from the late chi controlling phase to the early meridian opening phase, but it takes 7 to 8 years or even longer to progress from the early to the mid-meridian opening phase. Of course, the higher the system level, the faster the pace of opening meridians, which is almost a consensus. Normally, the system would plan the meridian routes for the host, sparing them the worry. The host simply needs to follow the system's instructions diligently, complete tasks, and collect spiritual power crystals. But for someone like Xiang Beifei, who didn't have a system to plan, everything must be figured out on his own, which made it more challenging. However, fortunately, his natural talent for cultivation was high. Using the chaotic yin-yang qi formula provided by the Spirit Gathering book to open meridians wasn't too difficult. He locked himself in his room for an entire week, endeavoring to open the meridians in his spine. When the last section of his spine was filled with meridians, Xiang Beifei felt as if he had stepped into a new realm. This sensation was extraordinary, as if suddenly a force strung his whole body together. When he was still in the early phase of meridian opening, the distribution of strength in his body was uneven and not fully interconnected. His primary strength concentrated in his hands, but the areas where no meridians were opened could not exert strong spiritual power. The spiritual powers of different parts of the body operated independently. For example, the spiritual powers of the hands and feet couldn't connect through the meridians, leading to differences in strength between them. The areas with more developed meridians were stronger. Xiang Beifei's arm strength was greater than his leg strength. However, once the spinal meridians were opened, it was as if an invisible line connected his hands and feet. The strength from his hands could instantly travel through the main spinal meridian to his feet. Thus, the strength he could exert from his hands and feet became perfectly interconnected, making them equally strong. This is why advancing from the early to the mid-phase of meridian opening represents an upgrade. It makes a martial artist's body more coordinated, enhancing both attack techniques and agility. One could say, progressing from the early to the mid-phase of meridian opening is a transformation. Xiang Beifei stood up from the bed, moved his limbs, and felt that if he faced the one-armed crab again, he might not even need to rely on return to the original state to break through the crab's defenses. However, this wasn't the main point. Xiang Beifei was more concerned with the fact that he now possessed the ability to activate the mid-phase meridian opening constellations. He quickly took out 7 mid-phase meridian opening beast pills. To Xiang Beifei, mid-phase meridian opening beast pills were no longer scarce. He had ventured to the outer domains many times. Elder Luo had helped him with some, and during training sessions with their team, Yi Changfeng had killed quite a few. He had long gathered them together. Now that he possessed the strength of the mid-phase of meridian opening, he was ready to unlock the seal on the constellation. That is the Tail Constellation. The Tail Constellation had 7 seals, requiring 7 mid-phase spiritual power crystals to unlock. Xiaohe quickly merged the Tail Constellation into 7 spiritual power crystals, implanting them into the constellation. Soon, all 7 crystals lit up brightly. An old, worn stone pillar appeared in midair. Tail Constellation. Recoil in fear. Ability description. Prevents anything from moving forward. Xiang Beifei carefully examined the stone pillar, which appeared ancient, even though it was only about a meter tall. Initially, it seemed to have some carvings, but they had been worn smooth and now had a gray-white sheen. Find more chapters on Novelbin. Calm. Able to stop in place? That's quite a peculiar ability, he said. He wondered if it would work on desolate beasts. This constellation's power could be really useful for being pursued or tracking someone, or possibly for immobilizing an opponent during a fight. Contemplating this, Xiang Beifei wanted to give it a try. He walked over to the bedroom window and looked down. Below was an alley Xiang Beifei usually took on his way home, lined with lush trees whose leaves fluttered occasionally as people hurried by. To the left of the road was a flower bed, planted with vibrant green hedges. He waved his hand, and the stone pillar turned into a gray light that flew out and landed in the middle of the hedge, where its branches and leaves engulfed the pillar, concealing it from view from outside the flower bed. About a minute later, two girls around 7 or 8 years old appeared in the distance. They seemed to be sisters, each with pink butterfly bows in their hair, and they giggled as they passed by the small alley. But as they reached about 10 meters from the flower bed, they suddenly and simultaneously stopped. The taller girl in yellow looked ahead in surprise. Her gaze wasn't directed at the stone pillar in the flower bed, but further down the alley as if something startling there had caught her attention. "Sis, the path is blocked here," the taller sister said. However, her younger sister clutched her hand tightly and leaned against her, saying nervously, "Sister, that man looks scary. We can't go any further." "What do you mean? It's just a pile of sand here. They have dug up the road." "But I saw that man smiling at us menacingly. We better go back," the younger sister insisted. The older sister found it strange as she looked around for a long time but saw no one. Yet, she no longer wanted to continue forward and turned to lead her sister away. Huh? The sisters saw something different. Xiang Beifei stood by the window, pondering the alley below. The recoil in fear stone pillar seemed to affect people differently. Their reasons for stopping were not the same. Xiang Beifei mused over this and continued experimenting for a while. A man who approached within about 5 meters of the pillar suddenly turned pale, looked up at the sky in terror, and his body shook as though he was dreadfully frightened, unable to move forward. An old woman leaning on a cane stopped about 10 meters away from the pillar. Her cloudy eyes looked ahead in amazement, her expression reverent as if she had seen something deeply venerable, and beams of light seemed to radiate from her eyes. Another boy with a backpack stopped about 11 meters from the pillar. He seemed to have seen something unbelievable, his mouth agape, muttering, "He's wearing so little." After a few more tries, Xiang Beifei roughly figured out the pillar's ability. Different people had different resistances to the pillar. Some needed to come closer to stop while others stopped from a distance. Moreover, the reasons they recoiled in fear were all different. Some were frightened by something, others stopped because the road seemed blocked, and some seemed to see something they dared not disturb. Recoil in fear had varying effects on different people, and the range over which it could stop them also differed. He wondered if this ability could also be used to fend off desolate beasts. He'd have to try it in the wastelands outside his domain next time. As more and more people were affected by the pillar, many stopped at the entrance of the alley, blocking those ahead and causing curious onlookers from behind to crane their necks and impede traffic. He quickly retracted the pillar. This ability, relatively speaking, wasn't as exciting to him as return to the original state. But if used properly, it could become a very practical skill. Xiang Beifei stretched his limbs. Not satisfied yet, he continued to sit cross-legged on the bed and practice. His meridians had already cleared near the spine, opening nearly half of them, but he still had a long way to go and could not slack off. Around 4 in the afternoon, Xiang Qingde knocked on the door. "Beifei, Daming called to ask if you were free tonight. He wants to take you out for a meal." Xiang Beifei stopped his practice and came out, asking, "Grandpa, has Uncle Kong's restaurant reopened? He plans to talk about it in a couple of days, but he mentioned that he wants to treat you first. He would feel embarrassed to reopen without doing so," Xiang Qingde said with a smile. It had been 10 days since the attack by the Desolate Beast, and the demolished district had returned to normal with the help of some very powerful SSR-level system awakeners. With their assistance, it only took 2 days to repair the damaged streets. However, many items couldn't be restored by the system. People often exchange system items in their daily lives, and for them, damaged system items were just that, damaged. Even powerful SSR-level healers couldn't restore them. What could only be restored were some non-systemic buildings and objects. In such cases, the Alliance handled matters cleanly, compensating every household for their losses. The sudden attack by the Desolate Beast was unexpected, but fortunately, everyone reacted quickly. Law enforcement arrived swiftly, and evacuations were carried out promptly. So other than some residents being injured, there were no fatalities. The street had long returned to normal, with many shops back in business. Life's order was smoothly maintained with the help of the Alliance. But Kong Daming's restaurant hadn't reopened yet, though that was imminent, as many were eagerly waiting for the Kong's Mansion feast to begin. After all, Kong Daming was also a hero who had fought against the Desolate Beast. All right, I'll go in the evening. Xiang Beifei nodded. Kong Daming's family was like his own, and having a meal was no big deal. Xiang Qingde immediately made a call, and Kong Daming quickly started making arrangements. By the time he and his grandson arrived at the restaurant, Kong Daming had already prepared dinner. "Haha! Our honored guest has arrived. Come, take a seat." Kong Daming looked hale and hearty. His health had long recovered and only his vital energy had issues, but this did not majorly affect daily life. After all, he was a retired pioneer and seldom ventured into the desolate regions beyond the domain. A moment later, Lu Hong's family also arrived, and Kong Daming had invited them too. He had wanted to invite the other 5 pioneers who participated in the recent battle, but 2 were out on errands, and they couldn't all be gathered, so he decided to leave it for next time. "Uncle Lu, how is your recovery going?" Xiang Beifei asked. "Thanks to you, Beifei, I'm feeling great," Lu Hong replied with a smile. After exchanging greetings, Xiang Beifei met Lu Hong's wife, Xie Qinghui, for the first time. Her awakened system was an S-class research system. Her path was the literary Dao, and she was the technical director of a publicly listed system technology innovation company. "Beifei, it's been a while. I must thank you again for this time," said Xie Qinghui, wearing glasses and appearing very approachable. "Auntie, you're too kind," Xiang Beifei replied. Lu Jiwei, sitting beside them, was resting her chin in her hand and looking at him in a curious manner. "What's wrong? Something amiss?" Xiang Beifei asked. "I thought you were as dull as a plank of wood," Lu Jiwei said, stroking her chin. "But it turns out you do have standards." "Standards?" Xiang Beifei exclaimed in surprise. Kong Xiuwen chuckled on the side. "How could you not have standards? I have them too." Xiang Beifei still looked puzzled. Kong Xiuwen clapped a hand on Xiang Beifei's shoulder and said, "Come on, stop pretending. We all know about your standards now." "Wait, what standards do you know about?" Xiang Beifei asked. Lu Jiwei and Kong Xiuwen looked at each other, realizing that Xiang Beifei wasn't just playing dumb. "What, you mean to say you, the person involved, don't know?" Kong Xiuwen asked, quite surprised. "Your criteria for choosing a spouse?" "Criteria for choosing a spouse?" Xiang Beifei was stunned for a moment. Why were they suddenly talking about this? "Where did you hear this?" Xiang Beifei inquired. "It's making quite the buzz online." Kong Xiuwen took out his phone, swiped a few times, then handed it over to him. Taking the phone, Xiang Beifei looked at the news article. It read, "The hero who saved the Western District, Xiang Beifei's criteria for choosing a spouse. All the single ladies, are you ready?" Xiang Beifei looked at the article in astonishment. The article precisely listed the criteria he had mentioned to Mu Yiqing last time, from BMI to eyesight to heart rate to lung capacity, up to climbing 30 flights of stairs, and the standing long jump. Not a word was amiss. That guy, Mu Yiqing, had actually leaked this. To think they took it seriously, who knows what was meant by that? Xiang Beifei mused. As a member of the Zhuzhou Alliance, it was impossible for such a criteria for choosing a spouse to leak by accident, given the many high-level confidential measures in place. If it wasn't Mu Yiqing's doing deliberately, such an article could never have appeared. He just didn't understand why she released that criteria. Was it deliberately to cause him trouble? The problem was, those criteria weren't even real. Kang Xiuwen grinned mischievously. It seems you didn't even know you've become a big internet star. You have a bunch of fan clubs backing you. Didn't you know? Fan clubs? Xiang Beifei found this quite novel, not really having a concept of it. That's right. Just check your Weibo account and see how many followers you have, Kang Xiuwen said. Xiang Beifei subconsciously took out his phone. These past 10 days he had been isolated, practicing and hardly ever online. He had even created a Weibo account for the Yulei incident but had never made it public, and almost no one knew his account. He had only posted a single Weibo saying, "Do not spread rumors," which at the time hadn't received even one like. However, when he logged into Weibo, he was stunned to find that his followers had skyrocketed to 920,000. His DMs were maxed out at 99.99 plus, with likes, comments over 20,000, and shares surpassing 10,000. You're really not playing fair, starting a Weibo account and not even telling me, complained Kang Xiuwen. I barely use my Weibo anyway, Xiang Beifei responded. At that time, when Yulei was spreading rumors about him on major media platforms, Beifei decided to register an account, intending to speak out on Weibo. But later on, he simply confronted Yulei directly, leaving his Weibo account unused. Now, someone had actually dug up his Weibo account. Mu Yiqing really does have her ways, Beifei couldn't help but think. His Weibo username was Idlefish Heading North, a name he changed later. It was written on a whim and normally no one would know it was him. However, when he registered, he had to verify his real identity, and since Mu Yiqing is from the Alliance, it made sense that she could find his account. Beifei had wanted to keep a low profile, but Mu Yiqing had made him famous instead. Of course, strictly speaking, he was already a celebrity. Students from all 9 elite universities knew who he was. The incident with his top score in the N-level primitive division exam had made him famous already. It's just that no one had the chance to discover his online alias until now. But thanks to Mu Yiqing's antics, he suddenly acquired a whole bunch of fans. You're now a star of popularity, you know? Just the other day, your fan club was fiercely debating over what to call themselves, chuckled Kang Xiuwen with a grin. The fan club has a name? Asked Beifei, puzzled. He had only been in closed-door cultivation for about 10 days, yet it felt like things were getting more bizarre. He was nearly falling behind the times. Of course, they do. Look at those pop stars, each one has their own support group, don't they? Their fan clubs all have names, giving their fans a sense of belonging. You've got a support group now, too. Initially, there was even a vote on what to call it, and there were quite a few differing opinions. Kang Xiuwen showed him a voting thread. Beifei looked at it and saw a Weibo poll posted by the official account of the Alliance Daily which read, Xiang Beifei's fan club is gathering names. What do you think our brave and invincible Beifei's support group should be called? Beneath it were several options, including Where the Heart Xiangs, Dawn Thoughts Mu Xiang, Xiang Mu Investments, Falling for Xiang, and Merge-like terms. There was another more straightforward and crude name, simply called The Choices. The Choices, The Choices, choosing Little Beifei. Then the voting started, and The Choices as an option led the pack by a mile. So, Beifei's fan group was now called The Choices. He stared blankly at the words The Choices, almost unable to wrap his mind around it. This name, it was beyond ridicule. I'm now part of The Choices, too. Ha ha, and I'm a new fan, Kang Xiuwen said, laughing and holding his phone. You really have too much time on your hands. Beifei couldn't help but comment. Cultivation can be dull. It's fun to ease the boredom occasionally. Besides, if you were to debut, I could be your agent, Kang Xiuwen declared confidently, thumbing his chest. My mom knows many big stars. She's well connected. Chen Xiuqin, with her Jianmei system, was often hired by celebrities to do their hair for a high fee. She wasn't only a formidable pioneer but also a well-connected career woman with extensive connections in the entertainment industry. "I'm part of the choices too," Lu Jiwei said with a giggle. Kang Shouwen scrutinized Lu Jiwei up and down before asking seriously, "Have you met the standard for the 30-floor run? Still want to be one of the choices?" "I've reached it. I ran the 30 floors yesterday without using any system or spiritual power, and it took me 4 minutes and 31 seconds. Lu Jiwei excitedly opened a video she had taken to prove herself. "And you're standing long jump without using the system and spiritual power?" Kang Shouwen continued to inquire. "Watch this." Lu Jiwei walked over to one side of the living room balcony, crouched down, and jumped on the spot. Her agile figure traced an arc in the air. She leaped gracefully like a swallow, clearing the coffee table and sofa and landing neatly on the other side of the living room. 4 meters 53. Passed. Lu Jiwei checked the reading on her test ring, then stood up proudly, clapping her hands and rubbing her fists before snapping her fingers at Beifei. "Beifei, what about the 3-kilometer run?" Kang Shouwen, acting like a strict examiner, continued his comprehensive assessment of Lu Jiwei. 2 minutes and 29 seconds. Lu Jiwei struck a pose. "And your lung capacity?" Kang Shouwen asked yet again. Lu Jiwei's triumphant expression instantly deflated. 17,500. Still a bit off, Lu Jiwei said despondently. "That's a huge gap. It's not just a small difference. Time to work hard. Our options all have standards," Kang Shouwen said seriously. "Understood. I will definitely strive to become a qualified option." Lu Jiwei clenched her fist with a serious expression, jabbed her elbow downwards, and made an encouraging gesture. "Xiang Beifei, these two clowns. Xiang Beifei, your mate selection criteria are a bit high," Kang Shouwen couldn't help but say. The mate selection criteria set out by Xiang Beifei were fine at the beginning, with requirements like vision and heart rate which most martial artists could meet, but the latter criteria were tough. Because they required no system assistance or spiritual power. It meant that whether it was running, long jumping, or climbing stairs, it all had to rely on one's physical strength. With the aid of spiritual power and systems, many martial artists could achieve this, but without them, it was equivalent to asking them to test like ordinary people, relying solely on physical fitness. "I just browsed the option challenge, and there aren't many who qualify," Kang Shouwen said. "What the heck is an option challenge?" Xiang Beifei asked blankly. Why had he become a superstar while he, the person involved, was completely unaware of it? "You'll know if you look for yourself. It's like the ice bucket challenge, the clean plate challenge, the locust forest thing from before. They're all public interest events," Kang Shouwen explained. Kang Shouwen shared a variety of blog posts with Xiang Beifei. The initiative for this Weibo post was launched by the Alliance Daily, the official periodical of the Zhuzhou Alliance. It's the Alliance Daily that published Xiang Beifei's mate selection criteria and initiated a vote for the name of the fan group. It seems the Alliance is deliberately helping Xiang Beifei become a superstar by using the Desolate Beast attack incident to thrust him directly into the spotlight. Option Challenge 1. 3,000-meter run without system or spiritual power. Option Challenge 2. Standing long jump without system or spiritual power. Option Challenge 3. 30-floor stair climb without system or spiritual power. Participant requirement. Each contestant must wear a spiritual power monitoring sports bracelet for the event and record relevant videos. Note: the bracelet must show 0 spiritual power throughout. Otherwise, the challenge is considered a failure. Event rules. For every option challenge video uploaded and at Alliance Daily, if it meets the criteria upon review, 100 yuan will be donated to Zhuzhou Public Welfare for each qualified video, which will be used to subsidize pioneers and defenders' families. The event is sponsored by the following companies: Liangzhou Rolling Wealth Company, Limited, Qingzhou System Science and Innovation Group, Wufu Desolate Beast Research Company. Below is a long list of sponsors' names. The event was launched by the Alliance and is Zhuzhou-wide, attracting countless sponsors looking to advertise. With such startling exposure, this kind of advertising is a guaranteed profit. Xiang Beifei is now a legendary figure in the Zhuzhou Alliance, with even his profile being published in the Alliance Encyclopedia database. Ordinarily, the events at elite universities are not public, but this time the official Alliance Daily seems to have added to his profile to increase the appeal of the event. At the elite contest, the N-level awakener Xiang Beifei, representing Liangzhou University, defeated various elite SSRs from major universities. As soon as the Alliance Daily published this information, it instantly caused an uproar on the internet. For an N-level awakener to defeat SSRs of the same age was historical. This was something that all N-level awakeners wouldn't even dare to dream of, but Xiang Beifei had done it. Find your next adventure on Novelbin.com. Now the name Xiang Beifei was incredibly well known, holding massive appeal, especially since the Alliance also published his photo from the elite competition arena. Xiang Beifei was naturally handsome, and with the superior photographers of the Alliance capturing him from tricky angles, he looked like a refined and elegant young man with an imposing aura and handsome features. A high-scoring student, handsome, and powerful, almost the epitome of perfection. As Xiang Beifei's resume updated, the internet blew up. Wow, Brother Beifei actually defeated an SSR. So inspirational. He's a role model for us N-level awakeners. Brother Beifei, wait for me. I'll definitely get into Liangzhou University next year. Brother Beifei is so outstanding. With such accomplishments, as a little option, I feel incredibly proud right now. Rest assured and fly high, Brother Beifei. The little options are happily chasing after you. With the Zhuzhou Alliance heavily promoting Xiang Beifei, seemingly overnight, a large number of older sister fans, younger sister fans, girlfriend fans, and even mom fans appeared. Many girls uploaded various option challenge videos, all hoping to meet Xiang Beifei's mate selection criteria and become his girlfriend. Suddenly, Xiang Beifei had become a national idol. Lately, girls huffing and puffing as they climb stairs have been everywhere. In order to meet the standard of climbing 30 floors in 5 minutes without the help of systems and spiritual power, countless girls have been working hard to train their bodies. Countless girls rushed to the sports field to train tirelessly for the 3,000-meter run, practicing standing long jumps, a national fitness craze, starting with the option. Xiang Beifei never expected the current online situation to be like this. Seeing those cute girls posting running videos, their slender figures swaying in the sunset, sweating happily, drenched through their thin clothes, gasping for breath, but still not forgetting to shout, "I do it for the option." Their slogans shook the sky, full of enthusiasm. Goodness gracious, what's going on? Xiang Beifei was dumbfounded. Is this an attempt to win me over? After carefully analyzing, Xiang Beifei quickly figured out the Alliance's, or Mu Yiqing's, intent. Since the incident of N-level genius Xiang Beifei rescuing the residents of the Western District came to light, the Alliance seemed intent on using Xiang Beifei as a role model for the youth. Without consulting him, they had thrust him into the spotlight. It didn't take much thought to realize that all these events were likely orchestrated by Mu Yiqing. The name Xiang Beifei had essentially become a household name. Born with N-level system talent, and achieving admission to Liangzhou University by defeating many S-level students with a single primitive ranking first, he had initially received a massive following from numerous awakeners of the Alliance. When desolate beasts wreaked havoc in the Western District, 8 S-level martial artists were defeated and injured. As an N-level, Xiang Beifei once again stepped forward, single-handedly killed the desolate beast, and protected the Western District. In every regard, Xiang Beifei was a standout among contemporary youth. Experience more content on Novelbin.com. Winning over Xiang Beifei, promoting him, and cultivating a role model for the younger generation. In Zhuzhou, N-level awakeners made up a large fraction of the population. However, because they are the lowest in system ranking, they often face various unfair treatments in life, and many N-level awakeners are dissatisfied. The Alliance isn't really afraid of N-level awakeners causing trouble, since they have myriad higher-level awakeners including SR, SSR, and UR, who can completely suppress and manage the N-level awakeners. However, Everyone with a clear mind understands that managing through repression is definitely not the best strategy. So, at this moment, the appearance of an N-level awakener like Xiang Beifei, who could defeat an SSR genius and had also just saved the Western District, how could the Alliance possibly miss this opportunity? There are plenty of N-level awakeners in the world, yet few who stand out. Xiang Beifei had become a distinguished representative of the N-level group, like a rising star within them, and would definitely become an idol for all N-level awakeners. The Alliance was making a big push for Xiang Beifei, which was really just a ploy to make N-level awakeners align with Xiang Beifei, to utilize him for publicity purposes. This way, Xiang Beifei could wield great influence, allowing the Alliance to manage N-level awakeners more conveniently through his voice. Previously there was Shang Tianxiong, the highest N-level officer in Liangzhou, and now there was Xiang Beifei, the excellent N-level youth from Liangzhou University. They really know how to plan. Xiang Beifei couldn't help but frown. As for becoming famous, he didn't really care. Ever since he had gone to Liangzhou University, he had made a name for himself with a single punch. Stepping on Ho Chenggu during the elite university competition, he had made his mark. However, this passive way of being promoted made him very uncomfortable. Because Mu Yiqing hadn't discussed it with him at all, totally disregarding his opinion, he had only found out about this today. They hadn't even paid him an endorsement fee. Most importantly, even if Xiang Beifei disagreed, it would be useless, because the entire thing was conducted as a public welfare initiative, uplifting and full of positive energy, and stimulated national fitness, enhancing the physical quality of Jiuzhou overall. Xiang Beifei couldn't possibly speak out against it. Whether he agreed or not didn't matter. He was already famous, and the Alliance could leverage his fame to do many things. I'm also a fan of Beifei now. Chun Xiuqin walked over with a smile, adjusted her elegant long hair, and winked at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei chuckled dryly. Auntie, don't joke. No joke. I vote for you every day. Pick Beifei. Unstoppable momentum. Chun Xiuqin placed one hand on her slim waist and gave Xiang Beifei the V sign with the other. A hairstylist by profession, she was skilled at grooming herself. Nearly 40 years old, yet youthful and pretty, she looked just over 30. For Xiang Beifei, she had seen him grow up since he was a child. Xiang Beifei and Kong Xiuwen were childhood friends, and their relationship had always been good. Chun Xiuqin never considered Xiang Beifei an outsider, especially after Xiang Beifei had saved her and her husband during the Desolate Beast incident. When the Pick Beifei challenge came out, she immediately turned into a fan mom, furiously voting for Xiang Beifei to boost his ranking. Xiang Beifei was utterly bewildered. The situation seemed to be getting weirder, completely unstoppable now. Kong Daming had already set the banquet, calling everyone over. Come on, what are you all waiting for? Hurry up and take your seats. Xiaofei, you sit here. Kong Daming specially arranged the seat of honor for Xiang Beifei. This doesn't seem right. Xiang Beifei had wanted to refuse. No worries, if it weren't for you, where would we be gathered here? It's a must, Kong Daming insisted and then raised his glass. Come, let's all toast to Xiang Beifei. Toasting and exchanging, the atmosphere was very congenial as everyone was acquainted, and there was no need for formalities at the dining table. Of course, the most discussed topic was naturally Xiang Beifei. It was just like that. When Xiang Beifei merely lifted his eyelid, SSR Ho Chenggu immediately knelt down. Kong Xiuwen spared no effort to tell everyone how impressive Xiang Beifei truly was in the freshman competition. How he showcased his prowess, trampling SSR underfoot, which astonished even Xiang Qingde. You really stepped on that SSR? Xiang Qingde gasped, always a beat slow on the uptake. Punches and kicks bear no eyes. I accidentally stepped on him. Xiang Beifei nonchalantly picked up some vegetables. Haha, old man. How come you don't even understand your own grandson's talents? I always had faith in Xiaofei. A chip off the old block, right? Kong Daming was full of admiration too. But that was an SSR. Xiang Qingde said incredulously. But this is our Beifei. Lu Hong laughed on the side, his eyes filled with admiration for Xiang Beifei. Whether it was Kong Daming or Lu Hong, They both had a much greater capacity for acceptance than Xiang Qingde. Having witnessed with their own eyes how Xiang Beifei had blown away the one-armed crab with a single punch in the later stages of Meridian Opening, an image they still couldn't forget. And Xiang Qingde, as Xiang Beifei's grandfather, seemed not to understand his own grandson so well. Xiang Beifei, not wanting to worry his grandfather, rarely mentioned his experiences in the outer desolate territories. Kong Xiuwen excitedly stuffed a chicken leg towards Xiang Beifei's mouth and asked, "Here, Chicken Leg TV's special correspondent interviews you. What did it feel like when you stepped on an SSR? Can you share that with us?" Xiang Beifei thought about it and honestly said, "I don't often step on people, but stepping on an SSR feels just the same as stepping on anyone else." Kong Xiuwen slapped the table, leaned back, and burst into a wide grin. "What do you call talent?" "Xiang Qingde." Kong Daming burst out laughing cheerfully. "Ha ha ha! Good lad. I just love that about you. You hurry up and learn more from Xiaofei. Look at him, then look at yourself. When will you catch up to even half of Xiaofei's strength?" Kong Daming lectured Kong Xiuwen. "Dad, when will you catch up to even half of Uncle Xiang's ability?" Kong Xiuwen retorted. "Outrageous. Talking back now. See if I don't smack you." Kong Daming flicked Kong Xiuwen's head, then burst out laughing again. He was frank. Being unmatched was simply that, and there was nothing disgraceful about it. Although Kong Xiuwen was slick with his words, he never slacked in his cultivation. Xiang Beifei often threw many beast pills to Kong Xiuwen for his training. Now, Kong Xiuwen also had the strength of mid-stage chi controlling. Among the newcomers, if not considering SR Awakeners, his strength was equivalent to the top tier. According to Xiang Beifei's estimate, it would take Kong Xiuwen another 2 or 3 months to advance to the late stage of chi controlling. His cultivation speed was forcibly piled up by Xiang Beifei's efforts. Now, speaking of which, Xiaofei is quite grown up. Has he talked about having a girlfriend in school? Kong Daming asked with a smile. "Yes, grandfather is just waiting to hold a great-grandchild," Xiang Qingde said earnestly. Xiang Beifei was still pondering his options when he was asked this and felt somewhat embarrassed. Why suddenly bring up the matter of holding a great-grandchild? "There's no rush," Xiang Beifei replied. "You're already a university freshman." Xiang Qingde said seriously, "Not too young anymore." Freshman, not too young? Thinking about it, he was, in fact, only 18 years old, right? When I was a freshman, I'd already rolled in the sheets a few rounds and changed partners while rolling. Kong Daming boasted with a lot of swagger, but after saying that, he glanced cautiously outside. Just as Chun Xiuqin stepped out to take a phone call, not present, he quickly lowered his voice and instructed, "Don't you ever tell your aunt about this." Xiang Beifei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chun Xiuqin had the Yi Jian Mei system and was also a pioneer in the martial path. Her scissors weren't just for show, as she wasn't restricted to cutting hair only. He knew Kong Daming was just bragging after a few drinks. In reality, he loved his wife dearly because during their encounter with the one-armed crab, to protect Chun Xiuqin, Kong Daming had shielded her with his own body, resulting in his spine being crushed. "So, is there?" Xiang Qingde inquired. "No," Xiang Beifei honestly replied. "Then you need to push harder." Xiang Qingde said eagerly, "I hear in university many certificates can be exchanged for academic credits. A marriage license is also a certificate and can get you credits. It's a win-win." Xiang Beifei, "A marriage license can get academic credits? Who on earth told you that?" At this moment, Chun Xiuqin brought over a bowl of soup, smiling warmly. "The nutrients should not flow to outsiders' fields. We have Xiao Wei here. Why not make a match?" Lu Hong's eyes lit up. That would be great. Having Beifei as his son-in-law was something Lu Hong was completely on board with. However, Lu Jiwei sighed. "I haven't met the criterion for options. My lung capacity isn't sufficient." "Then you need to work on that. Get that lung capacity up," Lu Hong said earnestly. He was aware of the recent furor over the options issue, but he didn't inquire why Beifei required lung capacity. Perhaps it was a requirement of Xiaofei's system. His reasons were his own, and there was no need to ask too much. I will work hard. Lu Jiwei nodded. Xiang Beifei. In the clean and tidy office, Mu Yiqing sat leisurely in her chair, observing various comments about Xiang Beifei on the computer with a faint smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Given Xiang Beifei's current popularity, virtually all level and awakeners were eagerly supporting him, striving to prove themselves the choice. It was like a nationwide frenzy in Jiuzhou. Are you sure this is a good idea? Elevating Luo Yunxian's disciple to such heights? Across from Mu Yiqing sat a man in a suit and leather shoes. He appeared just over 50, without a trace of white in his neatly combed, glossy hair, impeccably groomed to reflect the nobility of a superior. This man was He Kaiwei, the current commander of the Alliance Beast-Tide Defense Department. The previous occupant of this position was none other than Luo Yunxian. Aren't you worried that Xiang Beifei could become an anti-alliance force secretly nurtured by Luo Yunxian? Isn't this an opportunity? Mu Yiqing said with a smile. How so? He Kaiwei poured himself a cup of tea, the aroma wafting, soothing to the soul, as he gently blew on it and took a delicate sip. Consider what would happen if we left Xiang Beifei alone, allowing him to grow quietly at Liangzhou University? Mu Yiqing countered. He Kaiwei set down his teacup, pondered for a moment, and nodded slightly. Find exclusive stories on Novelbin. Calm. I see what you mean. Luo Yunxian was a genius, and Xiang Beifei was even more so a genius taught by him. Given Luo Yunxian's discernment, every disciple he took on was noteworthy, especially Xiang Beifei, who once, with a single punch, had defeated SSR's Ho Qingguo and even subdued a late-stage Desolate Beast with Meridian Opening. For the high-ranking members of the Alliance, a late-stage Desolate Beast was trivial, easily defeatable. But the issue was that Xiang Beifei was just a student who had been in the awakening system for merely 6 months. That was a completely different matter. Neither He Kaiwei nor Mu Yiqing could achieve that at Xiang Beifei's age. Such a student, therefore, could not be ignored. But are you sure Xiang Beifei will stand with us? Asked He Kaiwei. It would be best if he stood with the Alliance, but it doesn't really matter if he doesn't. The key point isn't where he stands. It's that he's now a well-known genius. That means he can't remain low-profile anymore. That's the crux. Mu Yiqing stretched her delicate finger and gently flicked a pen on the table. So what? Once a person has been exposed by the media and becomes a star everyone admires, with fans wanting to know more about his private life and paparazzi eagerly waiting to capture his scandals, then it's like having countless eyes watching him for us. Every move he makes will be under the scrutiny of the media, Mu Yiqing explained. This way, anything Xiang Beifei does will be known to them. If Luo Yunxian plans to cultivate Xiang Beifei as his secret weapon, then in such a public setting, a secret weapon would essentially be exposed. I don't think it's a good idea, though. So what would you suggest? Asked Mu Yiqing. All awakeners should unconditionally obey the Alliance's commands. He Kaiwei put down his teacup, poured another cup of tea for himself, with the tea lightly chiming as it flowed into the cup. He picked up the cup, gently swirling it. Not even geniuses are exceptions, he said indifferently. Mu Yiqing frowned slightly. He is no ordinary genius. The Alliance never lacks geniuses, and those geniuses all obey. He Kaiwei sipped his tea again, then paused to look at the tea in his cup, seemingly dissatisfied with it. It's supposedly a high-quality tea, all brewed out of the same teapot, yet there are always 1 or 2 cups that don't taste right. For me, tea that doesn't taste right is undrinkable. He Kaiwei nonchalantly poured the tea from his cup into the tea tray. Mu Yiqing watched the tea, her gaze flickering uncertainly. It's too early to draw a conclusion now. We should give him a chance. He hasn't done anything out of line so far, Mu Yiqing said. He'd better not have. He Kaiwei spoke flatly, then brewed himself another pot of tea. Grabbing the tea leaves, pouring boiling water, washing the tea, brewing it, filtering it, pouring it. The whole process was fluid and elegant. Before brewing, always wash the tea to remove residual impurities, so you can brew a good pot of tea. He Kaiwei seemed to be introducing tea ceremony to Mu Yiqing as he poured himself another cup of tea, gently smelling the fragrance, and taking a light sip, looking more satisfied. Good tea must be brewed strictly, he said. Mu Yiqing was silent for a moment. She understood He Kaiwei's implication. I have always thought of him as a fine cup of tea, Mu Yiqing said. Then we'll see how he performs next, He Kaiwei said indifferently. Mu Yiqing remained silent. She was adept at socializing and discerning others' thoughts. In a place like the Alliance, she knew what to say and what not to say. She understood better than anyone just how deep the waters were here. Luo Yunxian was once the commander of the Alliance Beast Tide Defense Department. He stepped down, and that was how He Kaiwei got the opportunity. To say that he picked up the position wouldn't be wrong. Not everyone in the Alliance opposed Elder Luo. Even to this day, many within the Alliance supported Elder Luo's actions, deeming his killing of that SSR to be justifiable. Many believed that Elder Luo was the backbone of the Alliance. It's just that their voices weren't strong enough to stir any waves. But privately, many in the Alliance were aware that if a beast tide erupted again, they would rather see Luo Yunxian stepping forward. Not He Kaiwei. But He Kaiwei clearly didn't like living in the shadow of Luo Yunxian. Mu Yiqing turned her gaze toward the window. Xiang Beifei, I've been trying my best to help you, but you need to think carefully about where you stand. Although Xiang Beifei was a conversation stopper, perhaps for this reason, Mu Yiqing was also filled with a bit of curiosity about this guy. She hoped Xiang Beifei would stand by her side. Even if he didn't, at the very least, she hoped he wouldn't cause any trouble and just quietly set an example for N-level awakeners. At the banquet, everyone was still teasing Xiang Beifei, and Xiang Qingde, unusually, drank a bit of alcohol and spoke a bit louder. Having such an outstanding grandson made him feel proud. Xiang Beifei didn't mind the teasing, as they were all his people. Joking around didn't bother him at all. Lu Jiwei looked like a naive person, completely oblivious to anything. She simply giggled along with the others while Kong Shouwen was actively sharing netizens' comments about Xiang Beifei. But then, Xiang Beifei's phone rang, and he saw it was Mu Yiqing calling. He had set his phone to Do Not Disturb mode to focus on his cultivation and meridian opening, missing almost 2 calls daily from her. Today she called again. I'll take a call. Xiang Beifei stood up and walked to the balcony. Finally, you answered the phone. Mu Yiqing's voice came from the phone. Is there something up? Can't I call you if there's nothing wrong? Mu Yiqing asked. Then I'm hanging up. Wait, I was just kidding. Mu Yiqing's tone sounded very melancholic. After a pause, she continued, Would you welcome me coming upstairs? Xiang Beifei frowned slightly and looked down from the balcony. On the street below, Mu Yiqing was leaning against a tree, lazily watching him. Not welcome, Xiang Beifei said. Mu Yiqing, what a romantically clueless guy. I won't come up. Come down then, Mu Yiqing suggested. Xiang Beifei was silent for a moment, knowing this woman had thick skin. If he ignored her, she would probably come up and ring the doorbell soon. Everyone at the banquet was someone Xiang Beifei knew, making it a friendly atmosphere, but if someone from the Alliance showed up, and especially an SSR, the mood would change. He turned to glance at the people in the living room, then pivoted on his feet. He vanished from the balcony, and when he reappeared, he was standing behind Mu Yiqing. I'm not a ruthless, desolate beast. Why such an unwelcome? Mu Yiqing ended the call and turned to face Xiang Beifei. What's the matter? Xiang Beifei asked. Mu Yiqing eyed Xiang Beifei. For some reason, she felt like his aura had changed. Yet she couldn't pinpoint the depths of the change. What have you been doing these days? Mu Yiqing asked. You already know, so why ask? Xiang Beifei replied. He had been shut indoors practicing, and a person like Mu Yiqing unable to contact him would undoubtedly come to investigate. Sometimes, even when you know, you pretend not to know. It appears less abrupt. That's the etiquette of social interactions. You really should learn how to converse properly. Mu Yiqing sat on a bench by the tree, lazily leaning back on the seat, her elbow on the backrest, and tilted her head to look at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei didn't speak, just watched Mu Yiqing. Mu Yiqing, feeling stared at for a moment, suddenly became a bit uncomfortable. Strange, she was an experienced SSR. How could she feel intimidated by a young man's stare? Xiang Beifei kept watching her, the atmosphere turning slightly awkward. She could only cough and then said, "That said, your fan count has already surpassed 1 million. Aren't you going to thank me?" Oh, Mu Yiqing. Communicating with this wooden guy was truly exhausting. Mu Yiqing hyped the whole thing up. Xiang Beifei's account jumped from 0 to 1 million fans in less than a week, a growth rate that made countless popular stars green with envy. The fan counts of many popular young stars were mostly bought zombie followers. Out of 1 million fans, having 10,000 genuine ones would be a miracle. But Xiang Beifei obviously didn't need to buy followers. His fan count was genuinely growing. An N-level defeating an SSR. Just that fact alone was enough to win countless admirers. To most people, SSR Awakeners seemed too distant, usually lofty and hard to encounter. But N-levels were a common sight. N-level Awakener. Top scorer in original college entrance exam grades. Martial artist. City hero against desolate beasts. Defeated an SSR. Carrying such tags, Xiang Beifei was more relatable and instantly became a sensation. He did nothing, not even a second post, yet the inherent topical traffic around him knocked many popular young stars off their pedestals. Those who had awakened something like the superstar system were outright envious. Your story really attracts fans. Most of the options are N-level awakeners, and they all like you. It seems only right to make a post, Mu Yiqing said. Sure. Xiang Beifei took out his phone. Mu Yiqing suddenly remembered something and hastily said, "Wait, don't post. I'm scared of what you might post." "I'm scared of you." This conversation ender, what a blunt guy. He had no idea what he might post next, and if the copy was poor, he could lose followers. Being straightforward is better. Xiang Beifei put away his phone and said. Mu Yiqing pursed her lips and then said, "Fine. You are a student from a prestigious university and a promising youth cultivated by our JoJo Alliance. The Alliance is optimistic about your future and hopes you can set an example for all N-level awakeners, conveying to them the right values." She deliberately attributed all of Xiang Beifei's accomplishments to the Alliance's training, not to Liangzhou University. In the eyes of the Alliance, Liangzhou University is affiliated with the Alliance. No matter how Luo Yunxian mentored Xiang Beifei had arrived at Liangzhou University through the system established by the Alliance and still belonged to those cultivated by the Alliance. Therefore, Mu Yiqing brought up this fact intentionally or otherwise. Xiang Beifei looked at Mu Yiqing indifferently and then asked, "Then, what are the values of the Alliance?" "Positive and upward, striving hard, looking up to you," Mu Yiqing smiled. "To let them understand that even N-level awakeners can make a name for themselves." "Is that so?" Xiang Beifei remained unmoved. The motivational speeches poured down on them set after set. But in this system society, how many N-level awakeners could truly reach a position like his? A person's future had basically been determined the moment they interacted with the awakening system. Up until now, the number of N-level awakeners who had made a name for themselves could be counted on one's fingers. Xiang Beifei could see everyone's system, and he was well aware of how much influence a system had on a person. An SSR awakener could become stronger by simply speaking a few words anywhere, while an N-level might work hard all their life and still may never enter the chi-controlling phase. The situation of the system world is just that realistic. Working hard and striving, looking up to Xiang Beifei, was just chicken soup that the Alliance used to comfort the N-level awakeners. The higher-level awakeners would always suppress the lower-level ones, squeezing from the latter to complete their own system tasks. But Xiang Beifei did not argue with Mu Yiqing. He did not need to. Mu Yiqing did not know about Xiang Beifei's abilities, or what he was thinking, and continued to say, "The Alliance needs to take care of people from all walks of life and will not abandon any N-level awakener. Everything we do is to make the life of JoJo people better. You are the awakener with the highest talent in history among N-levels. The Alliance has cultivated you, And now the Alliance also hopes that you can convey the Alliance's values to your option fan club and guide them correctly. What do you think? Mu Yiqing's gaze shone with eagerness as she looked at Xiang Beifei, waiting for his response. Do you think I have that ability? Asked Xiang Beifei. Mu Yiqing continued. You should also know one thing. In this world, the highest status does not belong to those entertainment stars, but to scientific researchers and martial artists. However, the superstars constructed online usually come from the literary Dao, and these are not the values advocated by our Alliance. You, as a martial artist with a special identity and powerful talent, are more attractive than those literary stars, which is why our Alliance hopes you can do something meaningful. In the eyes of the common people, no matter how famous literary stars become, they are just seasonings in life after all. Though it's the literary Dao that dominates daily life, the ones who are truly respected are scientific researchers and martial artists. The status of scientific researchers and martial artists is the highest. Most of those engaged in scientific research invent various high-tech solutions to fight the beast tides, contributing greatly in defending Jojo. And martial artists possess the strength to kill desolate beasts. If a beast tide arrives, those who can help them avoid calamity are not the stars, but the martial artists. Being able to fight desolate beasts is what's most important. But martial artists seldom package themselves as stars. They don't have the spare time for that. Xiang Beifei, a martial artist who embodies handsomeness, intelligence, and strength, became famous overnight and directly outshone all the literary stars, with incredibly strong influence. This was also the reason Mu Yiqing sought out Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei was silent for a long while before saying, "All right." Mu Yiqing's eyes brightened. "You agree? I don't have a choice, do I?" said Xiang Beifei. A glint briefly passed through Mu Yiqing's gaze as she smiled and said, "I like dealing with smart people. But remember, I am a martial artist, and I do not like wasting time," said Xiang Beifei. Being a star requires participating in various commercial activities and running all over the place. Xiang Beifei had no interest in doing such things. He preferred to spend his time on cultivation. "All right," Mu Yiqing smiled. That Xiang Beifei agreed meant that the Alliance had taken the initiative. Being able to keep an eye on Luo Yunxian's disciple could control Luo Yunxian to an extent. It was a good start. "Then, when there's time next, we should talk more." Mu Yiqing stood up and said to Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei did not speak. "Really not going to invite me up to sit?" Mu Yiqing asked again, not giving up. "There's no room," said Xiang Beifei. Mu Yiqing pouted and said, "All right then, I won't disturb your gathering." She gave Xiang Beifei a meaningful smile and then disappeared into the darkness. "Do you really think I don't know what you're up to?" Xiang Beifei watched as Mu Yiqing's figure vanished, talking to himself. He would not be blinded by temporary advantages. The higher a person was lifted, the more tragic their fall would be. The majority of reasons why the Alliance would elevate him were out of wariness of Elder Luo, wanting to watch over his proud disciple in such a way. Now, behind the scenes, the Alliance didn't know how many eyes were watching him. Using various powerful system abilities to monitor his every move, countless system-summoned cameras lay in wait in the shadows. By doing this, they could control Xiang Beifei on one hand and utilize his influence to manage other lower-level awakeners on the other. To them, it was two birds with one stone. So Xiang Beifei could just go with the flow. Mu Yiqing thought that if she could coax Xiang Beifei into her camp, she would be able to use her means to restrain Elder Luo. In her opinion, Xiang Beifei, a student, couldn't make any significant waves because there were many in the Alliance who were stronger than him. Even if Xiang Beifei harbored any ambitions, countless UR-level individuals would step forward to suppress him. But she was still too naive. These so-called Alliance geniuses never understood one thing. Xiang Beifei wasn't just a simple system awakener. He was the system terminator. Xiaohe specialized in dealing with all that flashy system nonsense. Thinking they could easily ensnare Xiang Beifei, these people had oversimplified their view of him. "By doing this, you have actually handed over the initiative to me," Xiang Beifei said. The Alliance gave him just one choice, to stand with them and help manage N-level awakeners, and to just obey orders. But Xiang Beifei had more than one option. Though N-level awakeners had lesser talent, almost no cultivation level, and were no match for high-level system users. The advantage of N-level awakeners lay in their numbers, making up more than half the total population. They were this world's main force. High-level awakeners appeared formidable only in relation to the lower levels. If the low levels were gone, where would the high-level awakener's sense of superiority come from? Therefore, N-level awakeners were crucial. Whoever had the N-levels commanded the world. In Mu Yiqing's eyes, N-level awakeners were just a small flame, showing signs of burning but easily snuffed out. But in Xiang Beifei's eyes, a single spark could start a prairie fire. What was missing now was just a gust of wind. Xiaohe, remember this He Kai Wei? Xiang Beifei said, petting Xiaohe's head. Mu Yiqing might not even realize that before she came here. The words she exchanged with He Kai Wei were all recorded in the system. He Caiwei's words about suppressing Xiang Beifei, speech value plus 15. He Caiwei's words expressing resistance to Luo Yunxian, speech value plus 21. He Caiwei's words on how to deal with Luo Yunxian, speech value plus 27. The entire string of conversations between Mu Yiqing and He Kai Wei was logged clearly in Mu Yiqing's system journal. Xiang Beifei had also heard of this He Kai Wei, the commander of the Alliance Beast Tide Defense Department, Elder Luo's successor. Not focusing on his primary duties, he was intent on dealing with those who had retired like Elder Luo and even bothered to target someone as irrelevant as Xiang Beifei. I have time to pick up a package, Xiang Beifei said nonchalantly. Woof woof woof, Xiaohe barked contentedly. Xiang Beifei returned to Kong Daming's home. Everyone was still inside, talking away, and hadn't noticed that Xiang Beifei had just run downstairs a moment ago. Xiaofei is now a big star. We all might have to rely on you in the future, Kong Daming said with a laugh. Isn't being a star tiring? I heard you have to shoot all sorts of films every day, Lu Jiwei said. That won't do. Beifei needs to cultivate. Martial Taoists can't waste time on such things, and I think Beifei wouldn't do that either, Lu Hong said seriously. He understood Xiang Beifei quite well. Before the college entrance exams, Xiang Beifei had been learning Rapid Flame from him. He knew that Xiang Beifei was a diligent kid. Chun Xiuqin said with a smile, I won't keep it from you. These past few days, I've received so many calls from talent agencies. Knowing I'm acquainted with Xiaofei, they keep asking about his availability for commercial activities, offering handsome sums of money to get Xiaofei to sign with their company. What did you tell them? Kong Daming asked. Of course, I told them we'd consider it. How could I make a decision on such a matter? I still have to ask Xiaofei's opinion, Chun Xiuqin replied, also smiling. She hadn't agreed to anyone, but she hadn't outright refused either. She always left her son a choice. After a moment of contemplation, Xiang Beifei said, I do need to cultivate and don't have time for those things. However, I could start a column when I have some free time to teach everyone how to kill desolate beasts, so they won't be caught off guard when faced with such situations. Since he had already decided to go against certain individuals in the alliance, he needed to utilize his identity to properly guide everyone, securing a place for himself in the hearts of Zhuzhou's common folk. Lu Hong's eyes lit up, and he agreed. Right, many civilians, living in inland cities, have a very superficial understanding of desolate beasts, and most lack a sense of crisis. Your idea is good. Experience exclusive tales on Novelbin.com. Powerful desolate beasts are a common sight for martial Taoists, but are rarely encountered by civilians. Xiang Beifei, as a martial Taoist, promoting martial Tao activities was very appropriate. That sounds great. I'll help you promote it. You're a martial Taoist, so you should do it in the way of a martial Taoist. I think a lot of people would prefer to see how you kill various desolate beasts, especially ones at the Meridian opening stage, as it would attract more fans, Chun Xiuqin added. Being a semi-entertainment industry professional, she was well acquainted with many stars and knew exactly how to market. As Xiang Beifei's #1 fan mom, Chun Xiuqin was more than willing to package Xiang Beifei in all aspects. It's not just them. I want to learn too, Kong Xiuqin said, looking forward to it. Xiang Beifei had a knack for killing desolate beasts, almost always delivering a fatal blow in a single strike, making for a highly watchable experience. He would just need to show everyone how to exploit the beast's weaknesses to achieve victory. It was settled then. Xiang Beifei wouldn't need to do much. Once the next term started and he went on missions to the outer realms, he could make a few videos killing Meridian opening desolate beasts when he had the time, and leave the rest of the promotion and post-production work to Chen Shuqin. Xiang Beifei, on his way home, noticed countless paparazzi squads staking out, obviously aiming to capture his private life in order to earn a substantial economic benefit. They thought they were well hidden, but in fact, none could escape Xiang Beifei's discerning eyes. No matter how the paparazzi hid, their system interfaces always shone brightly, like guiding lamps in the darkness, leading Xiang Beifei to them. Dealing with these people, Xiaohe needed only to bark once to shield them. If Xiang Beifei wanted to keep a low profile, he could wield Yi Chongfeng's Ronin sword and become a Ronin swordsman, without worrying about being recognized. Yi Chongfeng's Ronin sword, though only of SR rank, could typically be seen through by SSRs above the god-refining phase. However, for Xiang Beifei, such system-level suppression did not exist. Even if a UR Awakener came, they couldn't see through the disguise of the Ronin sword. He imbued the power of the Ronin sword onto his grandfather, so there was nothing to worry about. They quickly moved houses, leaving the urban village behind. The move was simple. Xiaohe could package all the furniture with just a bubble, negating the need for a moving company. After moving into the new house, the space was much more spacious. A 3-bedroom and 1 living room apartment Xiang Beifei had rented. It was in the same complex as Kong Daming's, just 1 floor apart. Meanwhile, Kong Daming's store was also reopening. He was busy with the shop these days, arranging the work schedule for the staff who had been off duty. As a hero protecting the city, Kong Daming's store received great attention, and many people had praised it. Some netizens even planned to make a special trip from other states to support the reopening day. Xiang Beifei had been waiting for Xiao Shang to come to work so he could investigate his system log, but the guy didn't show up. He said something came up and asked for a few days off, Xiang Qingda said while busy checking the inventory list. Due to the previous desolate beast attack, the food supplies in the store had been destroyed, necessitating the purchase of fresh food supplies. Having once sold vegetables in the market, Xiang Qingda was relatively familiar with the procurement of food supplies, so sometimes he would personally take charge of it. Xiang Beifei planned to accompany him, because with his recent fame, if he didn't, Xiang Qingda might be followed by a crowd as soon as he stepped out the door. "Why aren't you practicing at home and insisting on going to the wholesale market with me?" Xiang Qingda asked. "College students are required to write a social practice report each semester. I need to find some materials," Xiang Beifei calmly replied while looking at a reporter squatting inside a van, raising a camera, ready to stake out. This reporter had awakened the R-rated scoop system, whose strength grew by exposing others' secrets. A veteran gossip journalist. The journalist was eagerly waiting for Xiang Beifei and Xiang Qingda. He had already been to Xiang Beifei's house in the urban village yesterday, but it had been empty, and they still did not know where Xiang Beifei had moved to, so he was staking out at Kong Daming's place, hoping to observe Xiang Qingda. Xiang Beifei paid no attention to these and boldly walked past right in front of the reporter. The wholesale market was some distance away in Jizhou. Xiang Beifei's place was not far from the border between Liangzhou and Jizhou, approximately an hour's drive to Jizhou. There was a large trade market, the richest market in the region, with an assortment of fruits, meats, various livestock, everything one could need, attracting many purchasers. The market was indeed vast, a crowded street stretching 2 to 3 kilometers long, lined with various goods and shops. The wholesale food was diverse and peculiar, akin to another magical world. The first shop had a prominent sign that read Professor Lu Dalong, from the elite university's SR-ranked botany expert team cultivated Earth Dragon Fresh Livestock Wholesale Department. They sold various improved breeds of meat products, allegedly using multidimensional breeding technology to raise various cows, sheep, poultry in SR-ranked multidimensional spaces, from 1 to 32-dimensional system spaces, each offering different meat qualities. The store's flagship was the 9-dimensional space farm, as the meat quality from that dimension was most popular. They cultivated poultry with 9 pairs of wings, where each pair of wings tasted distinct, becoming the supplier for the Jojo's chain barbecue restaurant, 9-Winged Chicken. There was a store on the left energetically demonstrating their SSR-ranked botanists cultivated fruits and vegetables, grown using anti-gravity technology, leading to unconstrained growth of the plants. A single pea could rival an apple in size. Another seller on the opposite side showcased SSR marine expert Zhao Haier Brothers' alternate space deep-sea farm, selling a variety of exotic sea products, cultivated in spatial systems constructed within their systems. Xiang Beifei curiously looked at these shops. He had only ever browsed through ordinary vegetable markets, but he seldom visited wholesale markets like this. Xiang Qingde stopped in front of a shop labeled SSR Level Super System Fruit House, where a bald man was promoting their newly arrived fruits, and Xiang Beifei listened carefully as well. Yes, we have recently introduced a new, improved, 7-fruit gourd vine, which can bear 7 fruits on a single vine. Piltover apples, stormy green pears, wild bananas, dragon blood strawberries, dawn pineapples, twisted flat peaches, ugly tangerines. Each fruit can even replenish the loss of spiritual power in the body. Our breeding technology has applied for a league patent, with fruits containing 5% spiritual energy. 5%. Think about what that means. All major university cafeterias have already reserved these gourd vines for their martial arts students. At Jizhou University, an R-rank student who ate our citrus from the vine managed to break through to the late phase of Qi controlling in just 1 year of enrollment. An R-ranked student reaching late Qi controlling phase in 1 year, unprecedented. The middle-aged man peddling his family's gourd vines was spitting and spluttering away, extolling the virtues of his products to the heavens, and had even come up with all sorts of names for the 7 fruits of the gourd vine, attracting quite a few buyers to stop and watch. Normally, only S-level students might step into the late stage of Qi controlling within a year in the awakening system. It would normally take at least 3 to 4 years for those who are R-level. But with this fruit, R-level awakeners can reach the late stage of Qi controlling within a year. This is very rare, and many people became interested in this fruit. Xiang Beifei looked at the gourd vine skeptically. What he didn't understand was why, out of the 7 types of fruits, the vine didn't produce the one thing it was supposed to. Gourds? A gourd vine that doesn't bear gourds? Even more exaggerated was the price of the fruits from the gourd vine. 1 pound sold for 500. Could eating these 7 types of fruits grant immortality? Or the ability to breathe fire, spray water, become invisible or change size at will? The 7-fruit gourd vine looks pretty good. The fruits contain 5% spiritual energy, while most fruits don't even have 1%. You're following the martial path. I'll buy some for you, said Xiang Qingde. Xiang Qingde had quite a knowledge of these fruits' contents, and martial practitioners who came to the restaurant liked to order food rich in spiritual energy to aid absorption. So he also knew a lot about various ingredients. No need, that's way too expensive. Xiang Beifei shook his head. Don't worry, as long as it's helpful for your cultivation. I'm willing to pay 1,000 per pound for you. You are cultivating in Liangzhou University. You shouldn't shortchange yourself. Xiang Qingde had always been frugal, saving money just to spend on Xiang Beifei, because the expenses required by a martial practitioner were enormous, requiring large sums of money just for daily sustenance. But when it came to spending money on his grandson, Xiang Qingde never hesitated. Xiang Beifei chuckled and shook his head. I cultivate by eating sunflower seeds, not fruits. You cultivate by eating sunflower seeds? Which brand? I'll go buy some for you. Is it the currently best-selling Fool's Sunflower Seeds? Asked Xiang Qingde. Discover stories at Novelbin.com. Fool's Sunflower Seeds? The name of the brand sounded quite odd. Xiang Beifei didn't explain in detail, just saying, Grandpa, don't worry about it. My school has special supplies for me. The sunflower seeds that Xiang Beifei usually ate were exclusively available to big shots on Idle Fish. They couldn't be bought by outsiders, and even less so be eaten by anyone else. As long as it helps with your cultivation, don't worry about the money, Xiang Qingde said. It's not about that. This fruit isn't worth the price. It's a bit of an exaggeration in their advertising, Beifei said after taking a close look at the gourd vine. Its spiritual energy content is masked by the system. It's hard to absorb. This fruit's spiritual energy content is, at most, 0.5%. Don't get scammed when you're buying something, Grandpa. He had a sharp perception of spiritual energy, especially for things that were enhanced by system abilities, which he could see through at a glance. The fruits on the gourd vine had been affected by an SR-level system ability that had disguised their spiritual energy content, but they weren't likely to be absorbed by the human body. Similar to the beast pills, the fruits of plants contain spiritual power, but the spiritual power in regular plant fruits was very scarce, not nearly as pure as that of beast pills. Those cultivated artificially were even less likely to contain much spiritual power. Furthermore, the spiritual power in fruits wasn't necessarily fully absorbed by the body, and its effects could vary from person to person. As he finished speaking, a middle-aged man nearby hurriedly asked, "Young friend, are you serious about what you just said?" Xiang Beifei looked at the man's system interface. The man, named Zheng Xing, had awakened the N-level brocade-clad guardian system. It sounded imposing, but in reality he worked as a security team leader. You patrolled the company's third floor. All was normal, guardian value +1. You verified the identities of the hotel guests entering, with no dangerous auras detected, guardian value +1. Zheng Xing had just gritted his teeth and bought 2 pounds of gourd vine fruits, but as soon as he finished paying, he heard what Xiang Beifei said, which immediately caused him to feel conflicted. "Young friend, not to hide from you, I overheard your conversation with your grandfather. Are you from Liangzhou University? I am like your grandfather. However, I am buying it for my son. He just awakened his system last year and managed to get into Jizhou University with great difficulty. But his cultivation progress isn't fast. I was thinking of letting him try this. If it doesn't work, then I've wasted my money. So I want to ask, do you have a system ability to authenticate fruits?" asked Zheng Xing tentatively. Zheng Xing usually worked as a security guard, earning not much money. He himself was an N-level awakener, but his son had luckily awakened an R-level system and had even managed to get accepted into Jizhou University. In order for his son to have a better future than his own, he was willing to spend money on his son. After pondering for a moment, Xiang Beifei said, "I've taken relevant courses at the university, and these gourd vine fruits are indeed useless." "Is that so?" Zheng Xing looked at the fruit in his hand, hesitating. Students from Liangzhou University certainly knew much more than he did, but he still couldn't be certain. "You can take it to the relevant department for appraisal, or you can test it simply yourself. Weigh the fruit, then burn it to ash with ordinary flame. The fruit will burn away, but the spiritual qi crystals that precipitate inside will not be destroyed by the ordinary flame. Then weigh it again for comparison and you can roughly determine the spiritual qi content of the fruit," Xiang Beifei casually reminded him, as the man's intention in buying the fruit was similar to that of his own grandfather. It wasn't easy to make money for the kids, and spending it needlessly felt pretty bad. At that moment, the fruit vendor who was bragging heard Xiang Beifei's words and said sternly, "Kid, are you an SR-level awakener?" "No." Xiang Beifei shook his head. Upon hearing that the other party was not a top-level expert, the fruit vendor immediately yelled, "Then what nonsense are you spouting? These high spiritual energy fruits cultivated by a genuine elite university's SR professor. And you dare to talk rubbish here without knowing anything? I have an SR-level expert's appraisal certificate for this." He held aloft an excellently made high-grade appraisal certificate and then continued, "You're not an SR-level awakener, yet you dare to question an SR-level expert? Where do you get the courage from?" This fruit vendor named Wang Ying was an awakener of the R-level eloquence system. He was the type of person who usually made quick cash. In fact, he had no stall at the wholesale market, but temporarily partnered with a fruit vendor boss to sell his gourd vine fruits. His target customers for selling fruit were R-level and N-level awakeners. S-level purchasers usually made their own judgments and wouldn't give him a second look, but he could confuse and sway N-level and R-level customers with his eloquence, making them wholeheartedly believe in his products. Xiang Beifei shrugged his shoulders. The alliance law stipulates that exaggerating in advertising and defrauding consumers is subject to tenfold compensation. Bullshit. My gourd vine fruits are the real deal. New system transgenic products with no toxins, no pollution. How is that exaggerated advertising? Wang Ying exclaimed. Whether it's true or not, can't we just get an appraisal? Xiang Beifei said. However, Wang Ying didn't bother to pay any attention to Xiang Beifei and continued to address the crowd. Don't listen to this kid's nonsense. I mentioned earlier R-level students, after eating my family's fruit for 1 year, reached the latter stages of qi controlling. You think that's a miracle? Wrong. The real miracle is yet to come. As if to be more persuasive, Wang Ying once again used his system ability. Confuse truth with falsehood, deploying it for everyone to see. Confuse truth with falsehood. This ability was linked to his speaking skills. Anyone who had a lower cultivation level than him would believe his tall tales as facts, as long as they heard him speak. Let me tell you what a miracle is. Amid the crowd, Wang Ying spoke non-stop. You all know about N-level top scholar Xiang Beifei, right? The one who got into Liangzhou University as the top scorer in the Zhuzhou preliminary exams. Do you know why he got into Liangzhou University? Wang Ying scanned all the people, and particularly glared at Xiang Beifei before saying, that's because before the entrance assessment, he just happened to eat the gourd vine fruits grown by my family for 1 month. With the help of those gourd vine fruits, he broke through his limits, and now he is at the latter stages of qi controlling. Think about it. In half a year, an N-level student reaching the latter stages of qi controlling, it's all thanks to the effects of my gourd vine fruits. Xiang Beifei. He did not expect Wang Ying to actually bring up this example to persuade everyone. In front of him, no less. Since when did you start spinning lies without even drafting them first? Xiang Beifei was bemused. Really? He got into Liangzhou University by eating your gourd vine fruits? Someone asked, astonished. N-level student Xiang Beifei had been a hot topic throughout Zhuzhou since the last summer break, recently triggering a wave of options. Practically, everyone had heard of him. Absolutely true. Wang Ying thumped his chest. I happen to be an old acquaintance of that Xiang Beifei. Just last month, he thanked me over the phone, saying he wanted to endorse my gourd vine fruits, hoping more low-level awakeners could get into their desired universities with the help of my fruit. And you? Wang Ying then waved his hand, stirring up a breeze, pointing directly at Xiang Beifei's nose. You're not an SR-level awakener. What insights do you have? Just here to slander my product. I think you're jealous of Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei? Jealous of myself? He stroked his chin, contemplating this very serious philosophical question. Sometimes, when he looked at himself in the mirror, seeing his handsome face, he did indeed ponder this question. By the way, have you ever seen Xiang Beifei? Xiang Beifei couldn't help asking. Have I not seen him? Why? Just last month he and I had the liveliest conversation. Wang Ying thumbed his nose with great emotion. Xiang Beifei? Wang Ying was just a quick money scammer, constantly lurking around various markets to make a quick buck and then take off. Someone like him wouldn't bother to mince words because, once he had sold his products and people realized they were fakes, he would be nowhere to be found to argue with anyway. All he did was sell some small goods unregistered without qualifications, evading all sorts of regulations, recently just happening to drift here to swindle. As for Xiang Beifei, having defeated SSR and saved the city, he had become the new idol for the younger generation of martial artists on the internet, enjoying the limelight. Wang Ying seized the moment and figured he'd make a splash by impersonating Xiang Beifei. In Wang Ying's view, at this moment Xiang Beifei ought to have been all over the place doing ads and shooting movies with the Alliance. How could such a big star possibly come here? Anyway, since the person wasn't there, it didn't matter how he bragged. There was no way to verify it. Wang Ying was still feeling quite pleased with himself, blissfully unaware that he had accidentally run into the real deal today. Xiang Qingde next to him was also stunned. He had planned to buy the 7-fruit gourd vines for his grandson. But once he heard this guy spouting nonsense, he instantly realized that he was selling counterfeits, and he became furious. "You scoundrel! How dare you impersonate my grandson?" Seeing his grandson's reputation being used as a tool for making money, Xiang Qingde couldn't bear it and started rolling up his sleeves, ready to flip the stall over. Wang Ying's face froze and he said, "Sir, you'd better be careful with your words. Who is your grandson?" "Xiang Beifei is my grandson. How dare you swindle people using my grandson's name?" he bellowed angrily. "What?" The crowd was abuzz. All the astonished eyes fell on Xiang Qingde. Wang Ying couldn't keep his composure anymore. It was just a casual remark. How suddenly did a grandfather of Xiang Beifei emerge? But he quickly calmed down. Everyone had heard of Xiang Beifei, yet not many knew Xiang Qingde. "You say you're Xiang Beifei's grandfather, so you are Xiang Beifei's grandfather? I might as well say I'm the grandfather of the Calabash brothers." Wang Ying shouted. "Don't believe him, everyone. This man is just trying to attract attention. He's coveting my 7-fruit gourd vines. A competitor stooge here to slander me. I know the real Xiang Beifei and his family. They don't look like this at all. This old man dares to deceive by impersonating Xiang Beifei's name and defame me, which is truly hateful. I've never seen such a shameless person before." He pointed at Xiang Qingde, his voice resonating as if he was the victim and Xiang Qingde the imposter. Hearing Wang Ying talk like this made Xiang Qingde almost explode with rage. Read new adventures at Novelbin.com. What a guy! A thief crying, "Catch the thief!" Such thick skin and even turning the tables. Angrily, Xiang Qingde said, "Weren't you just boasting about chatting joyfully over the phone with Xiang Beifei? Then you should have his phone number. Call him and have him prove who you are." "Humph. The man is busy all day long with cultivation and study. How can I bother him? As for you, impersonating Xiang Beifei's grandfather, if you don't leave now, I'm going to call the police and have you arrested," Wang Ying said. "I need to impersonate myself?" Xiang Qingde was practically amused to fury. People around started whispering to each other as they weren't clear whether Xiang Qingde was telling the truth or not. Normally, with Xiang Beifei being so famous now and making a fortune just with endorsements, why would his grandfather need to come to a wholesale market like this? Both sides were adamant. However, Wang Ying utilized his system ability, confused truth with falsehood, to influence the judgment of the onlookers. Most people here didn't have high system registrations, and with Wang Ying's cultivation at the later stage of qi controlling, he more than had the ability to impress them. As a result, in their eyes, his words became more persuasive. Moreover, Xiang Qingde, lacking a system compared to Wang Ying, made his words seem far less credible. Could this old man be senile? How could Xiang Beifei possibly be his grandson? If I had a child like Xiang Beifei, I'd have retired long ago to enjoy my old age, having anything I wanted to eat. Why would I need to come to a place like this? Yeah, I find what this boss is saying more believable. Many were swayed by Wang Ying's system ability, believed what he said, and began to doubt Xiang Qingde. Xiang Qingde grew increasingly angry as he was spoken about, but fortunately, he had brought his own child out for a stroll today. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have been able to argue with Wang Ying. Yet, he also found it strange and turned to whisper to Xiang Beifei, "What's wrong with these people? You're so famous now. Don't they recognize you? My grandson is right beside me, and he's been incredibly famous lately, so how come these people are all blind?" Xiang Beifei touched his forehead. He was disguised with the Ronin sword, wandering the world, so how could anyone recognize him? He didn't want to cause any trouble, but now that the old man had spoken like this, if he kept silent, the old man might be mistaken for another swindler. So Xiang Beifei simply removed his disguise. As he squeezed out of the crowd, someone inadvertently caught a glimpse of Xiang Beifei and suddenly jolted in shock. "Ah, this. That person's eyes widened in astonishment, and his speech became incoherent. He rubbed his eyes carefully, thinking he had seen wrong. Then he quickly took out his phone, dragged out the photo he had saved, and meticulously compared the person before him with the photo of Xiang Beifei, checking 3 times before he finally exclaimed, "Look! There's a Xiang Beifei over here." Xiang Beifei. Somehow that sounded so weird. But as soon as he spoke, everyone turned their gaze toward him, all eyes landing on Xiang Beifei, a sunny and handsome boy. That familiar silhouette had everyone taken aback. My God, it really is Xiang Beifei. It's the Xiang Beifei who can beat up SSR-level geniuses. An N-level grocery shopping lady shouted in surprise. Oh, I'm a fan of Xiang. I actually met him in person. I knew it was right to read the almanac before going out today. A short young man said, overwhelmed with shock. Right, he looks just like the screensaver on my phone. A girl holding her phone shouted excitedly. She was also an N-level awakener, who idolized Xiang Beifei as her role model and had even set his photo as her screensaver. Every time she picked up her phone and turned it on, the first thing she saw was Xiang Beifei, filling her with good vibes. I even made my daughter set Xiang Beifei as her wallpaper yesterday, a woman said, waving her phone excitedly. The whole place erupted into a frenzy. Xiang Beifei had by now become a national idol of the Alliance, with almost all N-level awakeners having seen his photo. Many N-level awakeners even kept his photo on their phones to constantly inspire themselves. Everyone thought such a genius was leagues away from them, yet here he was, appearing in the middle of this bustling market. Most of the people walking here were N-level and R-level awakeners. Normally, when they encountered higher-level awakeners, they would feel awe and considered themselves inferior, believing they could never measure up to even one of their fingers. Even if they were insulted to their face by SR or SSR awakeners, they could only be angry but not dare to speak up. The notion that higher-level awakeners were much stronger than lower-level ones had become common sense. Yet, N-level Xiang Beifei could beat SSRs. This feeling shocked countless N-level awakeners. It was like overturning their common sense, telling them that even as N-level awakeners they could compete with SSRs. They were not born inferior. As they faced insults from higher-level awakeners and nearly lost hope in life, if they thought of Xiang Beifei, they suddenly found the motivation to persevere. Thus, countless N-level awakeners saw Xiang Beifei as a role model, and trusting the deeds they could not achieve onto him, hoping that Xiang Beifei would achieve great things and vindicate the N-level awakeners. They aspired for the rise of the grassroots, to trample geniuses underfoot. Therefore, when Xiang Beifei appeared, it was like a ray of dawn suddenly broke through the night, shining upon everyone, astonishing all. The crowd immediately burst into cheers. Even Xiang Beifei himself had not realized he would be so adored. Almost everyone looked at him with faces full of reverence and envy. Whether they were elderly, children, middle-aged men, or young women, the entire venue was cheering for him. Compared to the lofty SSR-level awakeners, N-level Xiang Beifei was obviously much closer to their lives. Xiang Beifei had still underestimated the extent of his popularity. Wang Ying's face had turned green. What the hell? It was actually Xiang Beifei? This was truly a disaster. The Alliance, to keep Xiang Beifei from being too inconspicuous, had deliberately exposed many photos of him during the newcomer contest. So many people recognized what the real Xiang Beifei looked like, including Wang Ying. You just said you know me? How come I'm unaware of that? Xiang Beifei looked at Wang Ying. Wang Ying gasped. I. Wang Ying was so terrified that he had become completely flustered, having shot himself in the foot. He cursed his own bad luck. Using Xiang Beifei's reputation to make money had not been a problem before, so why did it backfire today? The person in question had come looking for him, and he wished he could find a hole to crawl into. Xiang Beifei simply picked up a fruit and educated everyone about fruit. We must learn to view the act of eating properly. If a system task is unrelated to eating, it's impossible to become strong by simply eating fruit. The spiritual energy content in fruit is low, and the absorption is limited. Otherwise, if one could increase their cultivation by simply eating, why wouldn't these people eat it themselves instead of selling it to others? Xiang Beifei rubbed two sticks together, igniting the gourd vine in his hand, leaving only a trace of fine spiritual power crystal to demonstrate to everyone how to identify the authenticity of fruit. This act also elicited many gasps of surprise. Now, whatever Xiang Beifei did seemed like a sacred act in the eyes of everyone who was none the wiser. Everyone was amazed to see the flames dancing in Xiang Beifei's hand. Such knowledge was rarely shared, and this was the first time they had seen such an act. Many people were hoodwinked by merchants' adverts when shopping, and those with insufficient discernment were easily trapped. Soon, they once again pointed fingers at Wang Ying, cursing, "Unscrupulous merchant! The part of fruit with the highest content of spiritual energy is not in the flesh, but in the core or, rather, the seeds, just like beast pills. These seeds are where the richest concentration of spiritual energy lies, and they are usually the parts we don't eat. This means if you wish to taste new things, you can try, but if you want to absorb spiritual energy by eating fruit, for most people, the effect is almost negligible. Cultivation requires direction. What suits your own system is the best. Everyone should understand this principle and not blindly follow trends, being deceived." Xiang Beifei then shared more knowledge about spiritual energy with everyone, to prevent them from taking detours when purchasing goods. This information was mentioned in many books, but not everyone sought it out. "So that's how it is. I want a refund." Zhang Xing, who originally planned to buy a gourd fruit for his son, was excited after hearing Xiang Beifei's advice and immediately shouted, Right. I want a refund too. Where's the boss?" Many people, filled with righteous indignation, shouted that they wanted to settle accounts with Wang Ying. But when they turned around, where was Wang Ying's figure? He had already snuck away while Xiang Beifei was enlightening everyone with his knowledge, using an escape talisman to make his escape. Explore more stories at novelbin.com. Good thing I ran fast. I wander around various markets all year. How could I dare to mingle without some real skills? Wang Ying snickered coldly. When you often walk by the river, how can you not get your shoes wet? In his line of work, he encountered all kinds of enforcement officers each time he set up shop. Before starting to sell, he often had to scout around to ensure the officers were too busy to pay attention to his area, and then he would start his business. There were also several times he nearly got caught by the enforcement officers, but each time he managed to escape successfully. When it came to escaping, he was an expert. This Xiang Beifei is just a greenhorn. What's the use of having strength? He still can't catch me, right? Wang Ying proudly appeared in a small alley of the wholesale market, which was 200 meters away from his previous stall. The escape talisman was one of the most powerful protective measures his system could provide, exclusively for saving one's skin. Each escape talisman was ridiculously expensive, costing 4,000 system points. If he did not block the system space, even enforcement officers in the meridian opening phase might not be able to catch him. He always prepared an escape talisman for the times when the officers were closing in, just so he could run away before they arrived. Wang Ying stood at the street corner, smugly watching the crowd searching for him in vain. The place was originally a hive of mixed fish and dragons. Many people had gathered around Xiang Beifei, and no one noticed him here. "Damn it, he slipped away," Zhang Xing said angrily. Xiang Qingde was also very unwilling. "To dare to swindle under the guise of my grandson's name, he has not paid the price yet. Brother Beifei, what should we do now? He ran away, and our money hasn't been refunded yet," someone asked. Many people here were duped by Wang Ying, who had just been listening to Xiang Beifei's explanations and forgot about Wang Ying. "Don't worry, he won't get away," Xiang Beifei said calmly. "Brother Xiang, do you have a solution?" Zhang Xing asked anxiously. Everyone also looked at Xiang Beifei with anticipation, eager to see how he would bring the unscrupulous merchant to justice. "He will be back here soon." Xiang Beifei casually glanced toward the street corner 200 meters away. Just as he was smugly watching from his hiding spot, Wang Ying suddenly saw Xiang Beifei looking in his direction, and his heart skipped a beat. "Not good. He spotted me." Wang Ying quickly retracted his head. He knew Xiang Beifei was a meridian opening phase martial artist, which meant that Xiang Beifei had very strong mobility. If he was directly pursued the moment he was seen, he would have no chance of outrunning him. His only option was to use another escape talisman. Wang Ying gritted his teeth and spent another 4,000 system points to exchange for an escape talisman. The escape talisman could conceal one's presence and then freely teleport in any direction. So even if Xiang Beifei were to chase him, he wouldn't know which direction to follow. He immediately clutched the escape talisman and said in a low voice, "Lord Lao Zi of the Great Monad, please grant my wish swiftly." Wang Ying turned into a wisp of smoke and disappeared from the spot. This should be safe now, can't stay any longer, must run quickly. Wang Ying steadied himself, ready to leave when he suddenly felt that something about the atmosphere was off. He unconsciously looked up and was shocked. All around him were various people, eyeing him like prey, and there was Xiang Beifei, standing in the middle of the crowd. On closer inspection, he found himself back at the very stall where he had been selling his goods. How is this possible? Wang Ying was completely stunned. Had he not used the escape talisman to flee in a direction away from the wholesale market? How could he have ended up back at the original spot? Had the escape talisman failed? Impossible. He had used it many times without any issues. How could it teleport him back here? His mind couldn't comprehend what had happened. But Xiang Beifei grabbed the back of his collar with ease and said calmly, "Stop struggling. You need to make compensation and issue refunds. Using my name to con people is no trivial matter. Shameless crook playing the victim. Refund the money. Right? False advertising. Tarnishing the reputation of our Xiang Beifei. Utterly despicable." Many people shouted angrily at Wang Ying. Wang Ying, held aloft by Xiang Beifei, felt as though he had fallen into an ice pit, unable to muster even a shred of his spiritual power. Woof, woof, woof. Xiaohe grinned triumphantly on Xiang Beifei's shoulder. To try using an escape talisman in front of it was like waving a big knife in front of Guan Yu. No matter where you try to escape, I'll pull you right back. The one thing Wang Ying shouldn't have done was to include Xiang Beifei while using her system abilities, resulting in free shipping for everything involved. When Xiang Beifei grabbed Wang Ying and caused a scene, the entire street was blocked off completely, and the commotion soon alerted nearby law enforcement officers. They quickly arrived, and after inquiring about the incident, they handcuffed Wang Ying. "Ah, it's really Xiang Beifei." Among the law enforcement officers, there was an R-grade lady who looked like she just graduated. She was clearly excited when she saw Xiang Beifei because she was one of the choices too. After dealing with the Wang Ying issue, she even sneakily asked, "Can I get an autograph? You're so amazing. Lately, our team has been planning to use your cases as training material." Xiang Beifei hesitated for a moment, then signed for her. The others were also eagerly surrounding Xiang Beifei, begging for his autograph. Getting an N-grade genius's signature was a huge surprise for the choices. All right. Xiang Beifei didn't refuse and signed for each of them in turn. "Xiang Beifei, come buy some pig ribs from our shop next time. I'll give you a 50% discount. I'll give you a 90% discount on spider eggs from my home. You all are so stingy? Xiang Beifei, my store's signature noodles are free for you for a lifetime." Many merchants were getting active, all throwing olive branches at Xiang Beifei. Xiang Beifei touched his forehead, knowing very well what these merchants were up to. If he accepted such offers later on, they would rightfully use his name to promote their products. N-grade genius Xiang Beifei shopped at our store. Our noodles produced a top scorer for the college entrance exam. Such a deal was a surefire way to profit. More and more people squeezed in, seeking Xiang Beifei's autograph. He found himself in a bit of a frenzy, realizing that being famous wasn't all that great. Seeing that things on the street were about to spiral out of control, Xiang Beifei immediately pulled his grandfather through the crowd, and then discreetly shrouded both himself and his grandfather with He Chongfeng's Ronin sword, turning themselves into two unrecognized Ronin. They don't recognize us anymore? Xiang Qingde was quite surprised to see that the folks who were just eagerly getting Xiang Beifei's autographs had, in the blink of an eye, no concept of who Xiang Beifei was. "I used a disguising ability, something one of my teachers at school gave me to prevent being recognized," Xiang Beifei said, not concealing the truth. Xiang Qingda's eyes lit up. This thing works great. Yes, next time I'll ask if I can get you one as well, Xiang Beifei said. He had obtained the Ronin sword from Yi Chongfeng's system, and he figured Yi Chongfeng wouldn't mind giving him another one next time. That would be great. Thanks to you, I'm famous now, too. But being famous can be quite tiring. Xiang Qingda laughed heartily. Just a short while ago, when too many people couldn't get close enough for Xiang Beifei's autograph, they asked for the grandfather's signature. He agreed generously and began signing, thoroughly enjoying himself. Grandpa, it's best to sign less. Some things shouldn't be signed so casually, said Xiang Beifei. Just one signature shouldn't be a problem, Qingda asked. Still, be cautious. Don't sign names carelessly, and carry out transactions through the official alliance channels to avoid unfair trade practices, Xiang Beifei advised. In a world governed by systems, signing one's name on a piece of paper might seem trivial, but every individual system is unique. Some people form certain contracts through signatures, thus binding others in specific ways. For Xiang Beifei, signing autographs was no big deal. It was best if people kept his signature as a keepsake. If anyone dared to misuse his autograph to cause trouble, they were looking for their own demise. Xiaohei would be there to register their delivery package number. But for Grandpa, an individual without cultivation, signing carelessly carried risks. For instance, he had just noticed a merchant named Lu Da, who sold livestock meat and owned an S-grade intention selection system. If customers signed their name, they would then be bound by Lu Da's system. Lu Da routinely sold his products at very low prices initially to attract customers, demanding that each customer become a member and sign their name. Once a customer finished signing, they would fall under the influence of his intention system. Next time a customer thought of buying the product, they'd have to return to his store, where he would drastically raise prices for regulars without them noticing. This method was akin to the malpractices of unscrupulous businesses like taxi apps or food delivery services using big data to manipulate loyal customers, with elderly patrons being charged considerably more than new ones, preying on regulars. Taking advantage of Xiang Beifei's distraction, Lu Da approached Xiang Qingda, who signed without much thought, and Lu Da jubilantly registered Xiang Qingda's signature into his system. However, a line of text appeared in Lu Da's system. You have already registered a customer named Xiang Qingda in September, unable to bind again. The system quickly pulled up September's logs. September 6th, Xiang Qingda's signature successfully obtained, becomes a designated intention member for your livestock product, and will have to buy from your shop should they require the product in the future. Designated product, Black Goat. Assessing Xiang Qingda's purchase intention. The customer will not notice price increases up to 10 times the original and will inevitably make a purchase. This meant that the next time Xiang Qingda wanted to buy black goats, his first thought would be to visit Lu Da's shop, where Lu Da would quote a price 10 times the norm. Xiang Qingda, bound by Lu Da's system, wouldn't be able to refuse this inflated price. Different people are assessed different prices based on their willingness to pay. For some, it's 5 times the normal rate, and for others, even 10 times. This depends on the target system and strength. For awakeners of the same cultivation as an S rank, the price evaluation can only accept about a 2-fold increase. For R rank, it's about 5 to 6 times, and for N rank, it can reach up to 10 times the price. They must purchase no matter what. In other words, once they've signed, next time Lu Da can significantly inflate his prices based on this assessed willingness to pay. As long as he stays within this, multiple customers are sure to buy. Lu Da, in essence, was forcing old customers who had signed to engage in transactions, particularly exploiting N-rank customers since once signed and bound, they find it difficult to resist the influence of his system. Grandpa, have you ever been to Lu's livestock meat shop to buy black goats before? Xiang Beifei asked, pointing to Lu Da's store. Xiang Qingda glanced at Lu Da's shop, reflected for a moment, then nodded and said, "Oh, I have been there. I went twice. The first time I bought from him because it was cheap and I even signed up for a membership. The second time I went back, I discovered that the prices had doubled. It was outrageous, even higher than the market price. So I left and opted for another shop instead." Xiang Beifei looked at his grandfather in surprise. You stopped buying the second time you found the price had doubled? Of course, why would I buy if the price went up? There was another shop with cheaper options, and the quality wasn't bad either. Naturally, I compared prices among different stores. I'm not senile yet. Xiang Qingde looked at Xiang Beifei puzzled, feeling that his grandson had asked a redundant question. Xiang Beifei, but you were bound, grandfather. Normally, Lu Da's evaluation of the old man's willingness to pay would be 10 times, meaning within a 10-fold price increase. The old man shouldn't be able to refuse and was obliged to buy. But why didn't the old man want to buy when Lu Da had only doubled the price? Unless Lu Da's system had no effect on grandfather? Xiang Beifei was quite astonished. He then turned his gaze back to his grandfather's system interface. The snowflake interface was very conspicuous, with no words at all, not even showing a name or system rank. From what Xiang Beifei knew about systems, there were only two possibilities for negating the abilities of another system, either having a higher cultivation than the other or having a superior system talent. Higher-ranked systems do have a suppressive effect on lower-ranked ones. Although higher-ranked awakeners can still be included in the tasks of those with lower ranks, compulsory or predatory abilities cannot be enforced. Take Ma Ziqian, for instance. He possesses an SR-level Godspeed Guardian system. When he moves faster than Chang Xianen, who is at SSR level, the task information will notify him that he is faster than Chang Xianen. There is no way for Chang Xianen's SSR vast righteous Qi system to stop this. However, if he were to try absorbing Chang Xianen's speed using the relative speed ability, it would largely be ineffective, even though Ma Ziqian's cultivation is on par with Chang Xianen's. That's because Ma Ziqian is SR, and cannot use his SR system's speed to influence an SSR speed. And the same should be true for Lu Da's S-level system. It would be effective against N-rank and R-rank awakeners as well as awakeners of S-rank with a lower cultivation than his. His S-rank willingness to pay system had evidently assessed Xiang Qingde as an unwieldy N-rank, setting the price up to 10 times higher. That being the case, grandfather was unaffected by Lu Da's system. Was it an error in Lu Da's system's assessment? Could it be that grandfather was an awakener above S-rank? Xiang Beifei became even more astonished. Come to think of it, he couldn't recall his grandfather ever being influenced by someone else's system abilities. Just earlier, Wang Ying used the confused truth with falsehood system ability to advertise to all customers, and many were convinced by Wang Ying's words, believing he really had a close relationship with Xiang Beifei. If grandfather's system talent were only N-rank, theoretically, he should have been influenced too, embracing Wang Ying's deception as true and not standing out to refute him. Yet, grandfather had angrily stood up to confront him, even nearly flipping Wang Ying's stall over. He was utterly immune to the confused truth with falsehood. This is strange. Xiang Beifei's mind was flooded with questions. What on earth was the level of his grandfather's system? Strange what? Xiang Qingde inquired. Nothing. It's just great that Grandpa can discern right from wrong, Xiang Beifei replied. Well then, let's go. We still have to do our shopping. I'll take you to the shop I usually visit. You might not believe it, but Grandpa is an old hand at purchasing. It could serve as a reference for your social practice. Xiang Qingde cheerfully walked ahead with hands clasped behind his back, signaling Xiang Beifei to follow. Xiang Beifei watched his grandfather's slender figure with curiosity. An honest and simple old man who led a frugal life and was optimistic and open-minded, not at all appearing to be a pretender. Could it be that he really was like the Pioneer Stone had said, having forgotten that he was a martial artist? Your journey continues with Novelbin. Calm. Lost in thought, Xiang Beifei suddenly realized his grandfather was about to vanish around the corner of the street, and he swiftly snapped back to reality and hurried after him.